Samuel, I
Now we're live.
guarantee you we've been live for 5 seconds. Okay, all right, we are live. Episode 66. This is a first. Tom Zenner and Gerard on the podcast together
All right.
today. We haven't done this together, right? You and okay,
No.
all right.
You gonna automatically tell me I'm wrong by looking over in this direction?
Oh, because
Sorry, Adam.
because it's a little awkward sitting over there instead of sitting here.
A little different.
Yeah. Okay. So look, we got a lot of things to cover here. One thing we have to cover is the following, folks. If you're one of those that just got in early, I got a question for you. Gerard yesterday told me how much he bench presses. I said, you got to be kidding me. He says, no, Pat, that's how much I bench press. I said, come on. He says, Pat, I bench press. So I said, Kai, why don't you guys go and see? And Gerard's like, I'm up. Okay. They went to the gym and they bench pressed. I want to see if you can guess. Do you actually know the answer?
I
or no?
do not know the answer.
What do you think he bench pressed yesterday at the gym?
If you were impressed, I'm going to say 325.
That's a lot, by
Are we
the
talking
way.
one rep?
One
like
rep,
a max
one
out?
rep. Yeah,
one
max
rep.
out.
Max, yeah.
325 is still
my
a
God,
lot.
if you're throwing the weight around on a regular basis, I think you look like you could do that. I'm going to give you 325.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay.
I weighed in at 309, by the way.
You weighed in at 309.
309.
So you're down from
8 pounds. Yeah.
Good. That's great, man. There you go. Good stuff.
309.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this Florida thing is good for you.
I'm digging it. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're watching this, I'm curious. What do you think you bench pressed yesterday? Number two, we got a lot of other stories, but there's a disappointing story that came out that I think we have to start off with, and I hope it doesn't break your heart. Okay. I hope you guys can emotionally handle this one here, especially folks out there that are struggling with a lot of challenges that they're going through. Stats came out yesterday, okay, that a name that was named in 1965, 33,000 kids were named Karen. Last year, only 325. Heartbreaking. Are you disappointed by that?
My godmother's name.
Can you please pull that up?
My godmother's name, Karen Varielli.
Get out of
Swear it. Karen Varielli.
I mean, that is news.
Go type in. Go type in. Just go on Google and type in Karen name popularity. Name popularity. Look at the stats here, man. It's
You haven't seen
right there. Just go down to come up. Just type in popularity, not the graph. Just any article. Any article, Kai. Go to any article. There you go. Look at this. Go to
I saw the one on
TMZ.
TV.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Name Karen popularity plummets from 32,000 to 325. Number 660, 831. 325 Karens versus 33,000. By the way, go to the other website I gave you. Go to the other website I gave you. So I looked up our names, okay? I looked up our names. Go to, it's crazy. If you go to Jennifer, go all the way down on popularity. Go all the way down on popularity. Jennifer was number one for an entire decade.
Wow.
Go all the way down. Jennifer always tells me about this. Look at this. From 1970, baby, if you're watching this, till 1984, Jennifer was the number one name in America.
What happened in
Jennifer.
1970?
I have no idea what happened.
So that's like millions, right? Every
listen,
year.
That's like every Jennifer. Go to Gerard. Look what Gerard looks like. I studied all your names. I've been investigating about his
I can't
names
wait
here.
for my
You're up
info.
there, by the way.
So unique.
Do Gerard. Let's look up Gerard. Go popularity. If you go down, look at that. Look at that. That if that was a stock, that's not a good stock. But by the way, all of our stocks look like that. Go down. This is what it looks like. Gerard's not even ranked. Not in the last few years. But Gerard's peak was. Keep going down, keep going down, keep going down. Okay, you got to go up. There was a 179. You racked one, keep going up. There was 179 ranking, 177 at the top.
When?
A54.
My father, 1958. Look at that.
He was born in 58.
Yeah, Gerard
There you
Senior.
go. Okay,
There it
58
is.
it was 191. Now type in Thomas. Thomas, here we go. A very rare name.
Yeah.
You don't. It's not.
I stand out in my family. It's the rarest name in my.
Are you doubting Thomas?
Go down. Go look at the stock at the top. By the way, go back
Look
up
at
to
that
this. Look at the
consistency,
trend.
will you? Come
look
on,
at the
man.
trend. Look from 1880.
I peaked.
Okay, obviously, is that Roosevelt, where everybody's naming their kids? Well, that's Teddy. Then it goes 1950. You're peaking. Then go all the way down. Let's look at the ranking. Look at this.
Wow.
But you've been in the top 50 for quite some time.
Consistency.
Top 10. Extremely competitive name for a long time. Now go to Patrick. Let's check this out. Kai, you may want to test yourself out as well in America, although it's probably higher ranking in different places. Look at Patrick. We peaked.
I wonder what happened.
In the 70s and 60s, we peaked. Major drop-off. We got some work to do. Right now, it's ranked 205. Go lower. The highest we got to was in the 30s, 30, and then boom, dropped off.
Now, is this percentage based or is this just
Ranking.
overall?
So which name was given the most during that year?
Well, we're just not having kids anymore. Our generation is not having kids.
Well, that would be actually a great segue into what China just announced. I don't know if you heard about what China just announced. I think that's the story we got to go to page 9. China will allow, moving forward, folks, China will allow couples to have 3 children in a major policy shift designed to reverse shrinking birth rates. This is Business Insider story. China said on Monday that married couples may have up to 3 children, major policy shift from the existing limit of 2 after recent data showed a dramatic decline in births. In the world's most populous country, Beijing scraped its decade-old one-child policy in 2016, replacing it with 2-child limit that failed to trigger a sustained surge in births. Experts say the main barrier to have children in China is the high cost of raising kids. In a poll, the Weibo account of the official state-run press agency asking, "Are you ready for the 3-child policy?" About 29,000 of the 31,000 respondents said they would never think of it, while the remainder would choose among the options. I'm ready and very eager to do so. It's on my agenda. I'm hesitating, and there's a lot to consider. The poll was later removed. Fines of $20,000 were imposed on people for having a 3rd child as late of last year. $20,440 if you have a 3rd child.
Yeah,
what do you think about this?
This just shows the nerve of the Chinese government.
I mean, doesn't this
dictating
inspire you? But doesn't it inspire you to say, I just want to move to China?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
The Chinese dream.
Because you don't have to think. They'll just tell you what to do at every step of the way. It is an issue. Their declining birth rate. I mean, if the Chinese government is this interested in it, they are worried about it. But, when you research this story, you realize these young people don't want to have kids. It's way too damn expensive in China. Yeah. And they're serious about that. And you know what else they don't want to do? They don't want to work as many hours as they used to. That 996 thing that was popular in China with Jack Ma and everything, they don't feel like there's any payoff to that anymore. If you got in the beginning of the tech industry and you could really cash in on that, they were all in. But they're pushing back on that. They're definitely pushing back on the kids. I think a lot of them don't even want to have one. They don't have time to raise one child. So it's nice to see, the non-compliance of the Chinese people and just tell them to shove it.
Well, it's not an issue that's endemic to China either. I mean, that's an issue for the communists in Brooklyn and Los Angeles as well. It just goes for me to show how little regard for humanity, the baseline of humanity that communists really have. They see everything as a spreadsheet. They see everything as a number. It scares me a little bit that China wants to ramp up its population because I think they're prepping for war and they want to have some more people ready to storm the shores, if you will. But the concept, by the way, of the one child, we don't talk about in our country enough. And again, we talked about this the last time I was on with LeBron James and John Cena and all of our repentant rich who carry water for the CCP every chance that they get. And this is what they do. This is what they're co-signing on. What they're co-signing on is social engineering. What they're co-signing on is cultural hegemony. And it's an embarrassing thing for us as a society to say, well, I want to have a really popular movie, so I guess it's okay that this woman had a 2nd child and they put the baby in a basket down the river because they didn't want to find. It's insane.
Well, the cool thing is Dr. Fauci is going to help them out. He said, whatever you guys need, I'm behind you 100%. We'll support this. 5 kids, I'm there.
Well, let me tell you one thing that this makes me think about. Here's what it makes me think about. You know what's the one country that's got the youngest population in the world? What do you think is the one country?
India.
54% of India's population is below 25 years old. Let me say this one more time. 54%. Tom, that's a big number.
That's huge.
54% is, you know how we have the baby boom, then we had the millennials, the Gen X, whatever, all these big booms, 76 million baby boomers, 78 million, all these things. You're talking about 54% of below 25 years old. Who do you think they're thinking about? What do you think China's thinking about? China's sitting there saying, wait a minute, we've had the biggest population for a long time. India's about to pass them up. That's number one. That's going to happen next decade or so when India passes them up in population. Maybe it's going to take a couple decades, but they're going to pass them up the way they're going. And they're sitting there saying, if those guys have a younger audience, younger talent pool, that means innovation is going to be higher. Creativity is going to be higher. The energy to last is going to be higher. Stamina is going to be higher.
Competition.
The willingness to compete is going to be higher.
Cost of labor lower.
Everything is going to be higher for India. That gives them an edge. I don't know if they're sitting there in a room and they're saying, well, let's do this because folks want to have more kids. Let's just be noble and let's let people have what they want. And I don't think that's the case.
But isn't that a problem though? Like, I mean, have we gone? I mean, I don't want to take up, you know, the reins as the progressive here at the table. But haven't we gone too far where we're starting to talk about, you know, the cost of raising a child outside of the benefit, like how much it costs? Like, our entire job as humans is to move this thing forward.
Well, true, but if you have kids, you're reminded of how expensive they are.
Sure.
Every average person.
He told me yesterday what he pays to go to his kids for school, and I was like, this is insanity.
Well, I mean, it can't. Once you have kids,
that's not average.
You can make a decision based on money, but you can't help but think about it.
But then it's idiocracy. Then idiocracy goes from a movie to a documentary. Then you just have dumb poor people having more kids. No, I don't. That I know of.
The perspective will skew a little bit because you won't look at it so scientifically when you have kids.
I'm looking at it as an overall societal issue.
No, I think it's a fact. That's all it is. But I don't think you. Well, you know what? I think people do use that fact and realize, okay, I think I might be done now, right? Because I know the cost of the kids. It doesn't affect how you raise them or how you feel. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do see it's a lot of money to raise kids, and it's even more in China.
$250,000 per from 0 to 18, give or take.
And I'd say in a lot of cases it's a lot higher,
well,
right?
And that's average.
For some,
$250,000.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. You're working anyway. You're earning anyway. What else would you spend the money on that would be more beneficial to you and society than raising a kid that has your core values? And
we're not arguing against the benefit of having kids.
I don't think that's. I will tell you though. I'll tell you the opposite side. I also think there are some families that ought to not have as many kids as they have. I also think the current tax system, unfortunately, influences some people to have a lot of kids and take the benefits and the welfare and the payments that are being sent from the government. Because if you have 9 kids, you're making $400 per, and you're getting, you know, all these other benefits that comes with it. That's a salary to you that's being paid out. So the tax system kind of favors people having a lot of kids. I'm not for let's go have a lot of kids. I'm not for let's not have any kids. I'm for, hey, you think you can afford 3 kids? Go at it.
What works for you?
You don't want to have any. I have friends that say, I have a friend. We were born a month apart, me and this other friend of mine, okay? We're born a month apart. Him and his wife and his parents are convinced the worst thing they can do is have kids right now.
Well, he's lucky he married her then, because they have the same belief.
Both of them don't want to have any kids. He's in his early 40s like me. She's in his
Interesting.
In her
and she
late
hasn't
30s.
Flipped at all.
And the grandparents are, meaning their parents have no influence to say, hey, you got to have, and they're Middle Eastern. It's like you would at least say, and his parents only had 1 kid. It's a one-child. So they're not in the mindset of, I know a lot of people today that don't want to have kids. But I think if you have the money and you want to be able to, you know, leave a legacy behind, I think you ought to have as many kids as you can.
Yeah,
this should be a meme. This should be a meme for how expensive kids are. I was watching Shark Tank one time, and this guy walks into the tank, right, with all that vigor and excitement. They come through the door. He's fired up. He's ready to give his pitch. Tells the sharks he's got 8 kids. 8 kids, right? So he does the thing. He's trying to get the investment. Shut out by everybody. Walks out, no money. You should have seen the walk of shame as he left that room knowing, I got 8 kids and I didn't get that investment. I'm screwed.
He said that?
No, you just get feel it. You can just sense it.
Well,
you know, the other point with India, too, though, if you have 54% of the country that
under
is
25,
under 25, think of the tax revenue from this generation. They're going to be able to build themselves up a lot quicker.
Listen, I am so excited about India. This is I went to India. You know the story. 2-3 years ago, we went to India. We went to Mumbai, and I spoke at IIT with the chairwoman of State Bank of India. You know, 240,000 employees. The desire to want to learn about business and entrepreneurship is insane. You know how I finished my message when I spoke in India? Here's my message. You actually got to watch what I say at the end. My last 10 minutes was the following. Here's what I said. I said, listen, students, because there's politicians in the room, there's billionaires in the room, there's government employees in the room. I said, this is my biggest recommendation to you. India, right now you're hungry. Right now you want to be like America. You want to compete against America, China. I said, the next decade or 2, you're going to make so much money. Your country's going to become so rich. They're going to be able to create some of the most incredible inventions that the world's going to use. And then they're going to try to raise taxes. Don't vote for it. They're going to, I'm telling you, in 20 years, do not vote for raising taxes. I'm telling you it's coming. Just say no. And everybody starts laughing, and you see the politicians go like this. They cross their arms. And I said, thank you so much for my time. You know, your time I got.
The way you describe India sounds to me a lot. There seems to be a lot of parallels, or at least you believe there to be a lot of parallels to India and post-war Japan. You think they're about to go through a phase of industrialization that's going to bring them out of the third world and into the Fortune 8?
Even more, I believe. Even more, I believe. You know, by the way, Japan right now is the country with the most debt. Their debt ratio today in India, it's a scare. They're number one above everybody. Okay.
Then they have less than 10% of the population of India too.
It's a scary thought what's going on. But you got innovation, auto, so many different industries. They crushed
the 70s,
it.
80s, 90s was
absolutely. They came in U.S. and they were one of the best things.
And then they raised taxes.
And then they raised taxes. So the thing with India, here's the thing with India. In business, when I left Bally Total Fitness and I went to Bally's, and my boss Robbie told me, if you do X, Y, Z, you're going to be able to leave Chatsworth, the gym I didn't want to be in, and you're going to be able to go to Hollywood and be the weekend manager. I said, who do I have to beat? He said, Edwin Guerra. I beat Edwin Guerra in a smaller club. He said, if you beat him, you got the job.
In sales?
In sales.
Yeah, okay.
I beat Edwin Guerra. I was ranked number 8. Edwin was number 10. He comes and says, I have to have a meeting with you. I'm like, I know what he's meeting with. So I'm dressed up nice. I got my crease. Back in the days, I would crease my own shirts. I would crease everything, right? So I'm coming in. I'm like, Robbie's here. Come meet with me. He's going to give me the good news. So, Patrick, let's go sit in the back. Hey, buddy, just want to tell you, great job last month. Phenomenal job. I'm so proud of you. The way you're going right now, one day you're going to be a supervisor at Bally's. And but I need you to stay here because no one's been able to turn this club around more than you, and we need you here. And I said, I'm sorry. You told me to beat Edwin Guerra. I said, did you see the leader's bulletin? Let me show it to you. I showed it to him. I go like this. He says, no, I've seen it already. I said, that's my job. He says, look, he's been here, and I'm giving a job to him. I said, wait a minute. Wait, what? I'm giving a job to him. He gives the job to him. I said, why to him? He says, tenure. He's been here with us for 6 years. You've been here with us 9 months. You know what I said? I said, I quit. That moment, by the way, I can't quit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no
I need
options at the
this job.
time?
People
I quit.
don't leave jobs. They leave bosses.
Here's what's crazy. Robbie helped me get very good in sales, and he's actually a very good guy. But that decision, whether it came from him or from a guy above him, it is what it is. Here's the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is Bally's equals India today. India needs some laws. India needs some strong law schools. India needs to have some, some level of confidence to give, where a smaller person who's coming up to be able to compete, they can't be bullied by the big guy. There's still a lot of corruption going on in India. If you ask the small entrepreneur that's coming up what their biggest fear is a level of corruption taking place there. If they can fix that, where there's trust in the system and I can compete fairly, and if I lose, I lose, then there's going to be some good innovation taking place.
Now, what's the plan there? Because this sounds almost exactly what China has in mind for Africa, especially South Africa. So,
guess what's the youngest country in the world? Top 10 youngest countries in the world.
I'm going to say South Africa.
It's all Africa.
Really?
Top 10.
Yeah.
So look what China's doing. China's going over there investing all that money.
We need to compete on that continent in ways that we are not competing. That Silk Road is going to change the freaking game.
Top 10.
Is that because of the mortality in Africa? People die old or younger? So then the people are younger? There's less old people?
Good point.
Maybe?
Good point.
Anyway, hey, the thing that scares me a little bit about India, though, is the level of poverty kind of festering for an opportunity for socialism to come in there in a different type of so that's what scares me, because there really is a huge discrepancy in that country. But I'm surprised they haven't evolved a little bit more athletically in sports, haven't become a little bit more of a world power with that type of population. But
cricket,
you just tell
in American sports they're not good, but in Eastern sports they do pretty well.
They do pretty well with cricket.
It just hasn't been a priority.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen here. All I know is folks in China are probably making babies right now.
What's that guy, the Barry Bonds of India? He's going to be so mad. He's definitely listening to this. Sanjeev Veer, the guy hits like 9 home runs. What do they call him? They don't call him home runs over there. They call him like...
in cricket? I don't even know.
Yeah, they call him outs. I think they call him outs, yeah. It's cricket. I played baseball. Cricket's ridiculous.
So what's the longest home run you ever hit?
Like 540 feet.
540
Come on.
feet.
Yeah,
540, that's Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What level?
Played a double-A.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a one-tool guy. I can run into a fastball every now and then and do some damage with
awesome.
it. But yeah, that was pretty much.
Yeah, but by the way, if you see his swing, he actually had a real nice swing. Yeah, he's got a real nice swing.
I would imagine you could jack a softball.
Why don't we pull up the bench press? Why don't you pull up the bench press video if you got it? Okay. So before we look at this, folks, what do you think this man bench pressed? What do you think this man bench pressed yesterday? I want you to comment below. What do you think our friend here, Gerard Michael's bench press last night? Comment below. While you're doing that, Tom, you said 325, right?
Is that what I said? I said 3
Do you guys know the answer or no?
325?
Do you know what he benched or no? You know what he benched or no? You have an idea? What do you think he benched last night?
I'll do 400.
Oh, you're going to go 400. So you think he hit 400. That's a big number, by the way.
Thank
Sam,
you
do you
for
know
the
the answer or no?
confidence. Thank you for the confidence.
All right, Kai, why don't you pull up the video? Let's take a look
Kai,
at this.
by the way, we both worked a 12-hour day yesterday. Kai did not want to come to the gym
So
at
that's
all.
345s. Though, is that 445 plates?
That's actually, well, you got to know, those are bigger than, so you're looking at, is that the 515?
That's 405.
That's 405.
Oh.
Okay, let's take a look at 405. Go
Well
ahead.
done.
Let's take a look at 405.
I'm used to being a big guy, by the way. This Redcon one, I might have been one of the smallest people in the gym.
Look
This
at
place
this.
is
Look how he
incredible.
picks it up.
No
piece
spotter.
of cake.
Oh my God, you're doing it for reps?
Yeah.
Damn.
405, that's 3, 4 times. So that's not max.
That was a warm-up. I need
That's
to
a
warm
warm
up.
up.
Yeah.
4 times, right? He benched 4 plates, 405. Now, we can't listen to the audio because they're playing music for keep going.
Look at how jacked the guys are in the back.
Hey, how are you never an offensive guard in football? How did that happen?
I was
This is
a linebacker. But
515 here. 515
Okay.
here.
No, 525.
525. Check this out. 525. You ready? 525. Nice shorts, by the way.
I don't
Gotta
count
tell
it.
you.
He went with a
yeah.
spotter.
Yeah, it's true.
Bam! Go! Oh my gosh! 525. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He picked up 525 pounds.
That's impressive.
Even if the spot was, say, 20 pounds of spot.
was joking. He earned it.
He definitely got his hands on the ball.
What did he curl? He said he could curl 75 pounds, 85 pounds?
90. I did
You
90. And then I did, barbell did 205.
You did 90 how many times? Once?
Just one, yeah.
Let's see how. That's 90?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I could do the perfect push-up.
That's impressive, man.
Just
That's
don't ask me to
impressive.
run a mile. I'll be good.
There you go.
That's-
Okay, so
yeah.
515 pounds, 500 plus pounds, bench press. That's pretty impressive.
It's hard to believe that you're looking at peak physical performance there is what I mean. This is it. People think like models and The Rock. No, this is the Mark Henry physique is what we're going for.
Listen.
This is Weight Boy Summer is what we're going for here.
No. Look, your clothes, your dress attire, it's just very unique.
Did
Did bench matter to you? Did the number that
I
you
had
could
long
bench?
arms, so for me, it's
that's tougher.
long arms. But max I did was 385, and when I was benching,
385 at 6'4" is really good. Carrying it a
385,
long way.
6'4".
300 was that magic number for me.
For
If
you?
you could just get
Yeah.
it over 300, 305 I got once.
Now I could do 2 plays 25 times. I could do how you go to combine.
The NFL
combine.
combine. That's what they
I
do.
could do-
That's how they measure you. That's
yeah,
what they
I
want
could
to
do
know.
2 plays 25 times. I could do pull-ups, 40 times on my peak.
40 times on a pull-up.
That's what I could do.
Yeah, the body weight exercises are the best if you can do that.
So, but again, props to Gerard, 525.
And how about the prediction of 400 back there? Strong.
Respect.
Nice
you
job.
win. By the way, if we're playing, what's the
Squared
game?
up.
Not Wheel of Fortune. If we're playing
Price is Right.
Price is Right,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
win. You win. You win a
All
prize.
right, thank you.
Congratulations.
New camper.
man. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's go to, folks, if you're listening to this, we're still doing the Super Chat 10X bonus, which means whatever you put, if it's a good comment, question that we use, I may even get some callers in if you got some strong opinions about something and you're an expert in it. We had a couple people that are cops in Chicago send me a message telling me they want to get on to give us some feedback about what Chicago is really like. But that person is on a flight right now to Hawaii for vacation with his family. Anybody that puts a super chat, we pick you, say you put $10, we're going to give you 10 times back, which is
so
$100.
somebody gives you $10, you give them $100?
I give them $100
You pay
back.
people
We
to
pay
listen?
people.
Reward is
We
the word.
pay people super chats.
That's
you
dope.
We gave a couple thousand on a couple episodes ago. So, folks, that's the super chat. Question, comments. We can't see everybody, but if you put a super chat, we're taking a look.
I got to get a bot going that asks questions.
Yes. Okay, all right, let's get into it. So, stories. Trump is telling people he thinks he'll be reinstated as president in August.
Oh,
okay,
boy.
page 5. Let's start off with a soft story. Nothing too, you know what I mean? Let's just very.
Oh, boy.
But it's a Business Insider
Oh,
story.
cool.
Okay,
Just a
easy,
little coup.
easy.
Just a coup.
All right, Trump is telling people he thinks he'll be reinstated as president in August. Business Insider story. Trump has been telling people he thinks he'll return to the White House as a sitting president by August. The New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman tweeted on Tuesday. Haberman, who broke some of the biggest stories of the Trump administration and has been covering him for decades, added that Trump has been laser focused on election audits in states where results he is still trying to overturn. The anti-democratic conspiracy theory has been bubbling up in the fringe conservative media for several months. It has no basis under the Constitution or any legitimate legal framework. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has been a prominent proponent of the theory. The former Trump attorney Sidney Powell also floated the idea at a QAnon conference, which is also called the Gateway Pundit Conference over the weekend. Thoughts?
Oh, man, I got to tell you, I hope he's right. But on the other hand, man, I think they stole it fair and square. At some point, you've got to learn. And they know what they did. They are slow rolling out their excuses. They've now started using the term fortifying the election. They didn't steal the election, they fortified the election, right? And you have that New York Times, it was a Time Magazine article that detailed step by step how they did it and what they did. And when I say they, this is not just the Democrats, by the way. This is the Cheney Republicans, the Bush faction, the neocons, the quote-unquote swamp, all the war hawks that wanted us. And again, it tells you everything you need to know about why Biden was put in power by the powers that be, that after a year and a half of holding the country political hostage, before they gave a single stimulus check to any American, they gave $250 million to Raytheon and started dropping bombs on Syria. Tells you all you need to know about what Washington prioritizes and what they don't. And Trump wasn't giving them their blood money. Trump wasn't sending people overseas to die, and they didn't like that, so they got rid of them. And they did it legally, though. See, they did steal the election, but they did it legally. They did it may be corrupt, but it was legally corrupt. What they did in Georgia, what they did in Pennsylvania, they changed the election laws specifically to allow them to cheat. If anything, I blame Republicans for not being willing to play in the mud, right? If the Democrat dead can vote, why can't the Republican dead vote? You have to do what you have to do to win. I'm so sick and tired of Republicans talking about...
You really believe that's what happened?
Absolutely. Okay. I'm so sick and freaking tired of Republicans wanting to be like, well, we did things the right way. We were noble. No, you lost. At some point, if you keep losing, you're not noble. You're a sucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they keep changing the rules and you keep playing by their rules that they don't even play by, you're not noble. You're a sucker.
Well, here's the question. Are they going to be able to adapt if that's the different game plan now? That's what we're going to find out in a couple of years.
Get out in front for once.
We'll see if they're that visionary. You know, in a related story to this one, did you hear about Nancy Pelosi? She says she's going to be the captain of the Laker girls next year. All right? That has about as much relevant...
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes, I am. Because it's about the
I was about to say, I had already... Lakers had already lost me.
You never know with
this
LeBron.
was like the tipping
might bring her
point.
on.
Yeah, LeBron might say, I'm mandating this. You know, here's the thing. This is why I truly believe Trump's not running again. Because say what you want about him, I don't think he's a complete idiot. And would he want a message like this out there? I mean, really, this just sounds so preposterous and so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there's no one with half a brain cell that actually believes that. It's physically... Everything about it is impossible. By the way, I'm more interested in the other Trump that's in the news this week, Donald Trump Jr.
He's hilarious.
Did you hear he's on Cameo now? Do you know what he's charging for his videos? He's charging $600. $600 to get a video from Donald Trump Jr. He says they need the money because of all the attacks from New York,
Absolutely.
You know, from the Attorney General and whatnot. So here's the funniest thing about Donald Trump Jr.'s bio on Cameo, right? For his profile, he lists himself as a New York Times bestselling author. I mean, why would you use the New York Times to prop you up when all you do is rail on them? I would take that line out of there. But yeah, Trump just has to. Isn't there a rally this week too? Mm-hmm. I think there's a rally, so the craziness.
There's a big Bitcoin rally in Miami.
Yes.
There's a Bitcoin rally, biggest
Yeah.
ever. 50,000 are in Miami this week. It's a bunch of parties we're being invited to. I may attend one. I don't know yet. I may attend one. The only reason I'm saying I may not because I got next week is a pretty crazy week for us and we're gone. But we may. So look, here's what I think about this year. Okay, here's what I think about this year. So there's three parties here. Number one is he's out of his mind. There's the key word they use, which is their fear. It says it has no basis under the Constitution of any legitimate legal framework. Okay, so that's that part. So somebody may say, well, for decades they couldn't take the mob out until somebody came and taught at a university, hey, we wrote this law in here called the RICO law. Why don't you guys know? So they brought the attorneys in. You know the story. They brought the attorneys in. They trained the attorneys on how to take the mob down. Then the attorneys went out, and there was this young assistant attorney general. His name is Mr. Rudy Giuliani. He comes out and he says, we're going to go after them. He hires 3 attorneys to work with them. Out of 150 attorneys he had to choose from, the 3 attorneys he chooses, guess how old these guys are? 29, 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
He brings young bucks who don't have a lot of experience, and they say, hey, guys.
They don't stand on ceremony
They don't,
either.
no. They're just like, let's just go figure this. But they have energy, right? And they go. So meaning, one end, if there's creative attorneys to be able to figure out if there's something out there they can do, more power to them. Second thing, if Giuliani is the guy that found the RICO law, and Trump hired him, and he was charging around $400,000 a month, by the way, when Giuliani was his attorney.
Good money if you can get it.
Back then.
Good money.
This is a year ago.
Whoa.
This is a year ago. Yeah, a year ago. So if he hires them for $400,000 a month.
$400,000 a month, and all they can get was a landscaping
That's
place
the
to
point.
have.
That's the point. So if that happened and nothing was able to be figured out, what is that? So all these states, Kemp, Georgia, all of these things that was coming back, Arizona, hey.
So they are finding stuff. It's just the Democrats have more attorneys. They did things to the letter of the law after they changed the law.
Did you hear the one story came out that one of the
thing
mafia
Kemp did?
members got $3 million and 30,000 what do you call it, ballots to put in?
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear about that story?
No.
Now, here's what's going on.
How about the boxes that were taken away? Nobody ever wanted to talk about that. They literally showed the boxes being taken off the table, put under the table. Like, it's insanity.
Listen, you're talking about a couple things here. We talked about this yesterday. I think it's important for the audience to be thinking about this. So here's a few things. Just 100 years ago, okay? Just 100 years ago, gambling was illegal. Yes? Just 100 years ago, gambling was illegal. The first legal casino that came out in New York was what year? 1978, the year I was born, right?
In New Jersey?
First one in Atlantic City, right? Okay, in 92, I think it was Fox Haven, Fox whatever it's called, Connecticut.
Shout out to, Foxwoods. Shout out to Greg Dinkins.
Connecticut, That's shout out to Greg Dinkins' research for us, which was very helpful. Next, so gambling was illegal. The mob was doing it illegally. Online sports betting was illegal. There was no bookies.
Yeah.
This is 5 years ago.
This is 5 years, but I'm talking about go 100 years ago. We'll go 50 years ago. Bookies, they were only ran by the mob and gangsters. You go to, loan sharks. You were going out there and doing loan sharking. I'll give you $1,000, but you got to give me $1,300 back in a month. That's 30%. That's called payday loans.
That's student loans now. That's student loans.
Then you have drugs that was being sold, illegally. Now Amazon is supporting marijuana being legal,
that bothers
and
me
the
to know.
employees. And by the way, do you think in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, Amazon's going to be selling marijuana on their website?
100%.
If they could, 100% they will.
It bothers me to know.
They just figued that out that they're going to do that.
The point I'm trying to make to you is all of these things were illegal just 50 years ago.
Yep.
Now they're multi-billion dollar industries that we're talking about, right? So the government and a lot of these Fortune 100 companies took their ideas from the mob and they're doing it. So maybe a lot of these political parties are sitting there saying, listen, man, the mob, the people control elections for a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we ought to go pick up some of these playbooks and they're using it and it's working effectively.
Doubt.
Who knows if it's happening or not?
But who's the ringleader on the Republican side to actually organize this? That's the problem.
It's so divided, it's not even funny.
Look up, if you want to look up something, look up Color Revolution. If you want to know what happened in America, look up Color Revolution. What should scare you about that, when people talk about the quote-unquote deep state and you get into the conspiracy theories, it's not a conspiracy that there are CIA operatives and FBI operatives that are partisans, that have actively tried to circumvent our duly elected process. Okay, they're on record, both CIA and FBI, and they've done this in other places. When people talk about they hate us because of our freedoms, people around the world hate us because they hate us because we do shit like this to their elections all the time. We interfere in these elections overseas all the time, the way our deep state interfered in our election this time. We do this across the world.
But by the way, we got a bunch of activity that took place, and people want us to talk about the Fauci emails. Paul Lee Brandt gave $100 to can we talk about the Fauci emails. Little Rock, $100. I was a Russian linguist in Army during the 80s. I was a truck driver during working through undergrad. I have a BS and an MS in electric computer engineering. I'm now a lawyer and cannot understand how anyone believes Fauci after his mask fiasco. What do you think about emails? Little Rock, why don't you text us at 310-340-1132. Send us a text at 310-340-1132 and let us know you're Little Rock, and we'll see what we can do here. But so look, here's all I'm saying to you is, if the folks on the left or the right got more creative to win, salute. If they broke the law, they got to be held accountable.
There we go.
But if they figured out a way to get away with it, you were creative.
What did our president say? Our sitting president, the most popular president of all time, by the way, got more votes than both Donald Trump and Barack Obama. Can't put a full cogent sentence together.
Greatest campaigners of all time.
Doesn't work
Most
weekends
popular,
either.
greatest campaign. He spoke at least once a month on the campaign trail. Guy was tireless.
Got a top-notch son, man, Hunter.
Oh, again, but there's no corruption in our FBI at all, none. All right, yeah. What did he say though, Patrick? And this should scare them, because if they're trying to go with that last line that you said, that's their line of defense. That's the mainstream. There's no constitutional. What did Joe Biden say? Didn't Joe Biden? I don't forget what the exact quote was, but it was something like, "There's nothing in the Constitution that's forever." Everything in the Constitution.
Oh, when he was talking about stacking the court.
Everything in the Constitution is available to change with my leg hair, and Popeyes was a bad dude. Yeah. This is
reaching out on the inside of my leg.
They used to braid my hair.
I have hope and optimism. I think there's enough people that might be okay. Good people. I don't think you can keep this secret. If laws were broken,
I don't think so.
I think eventually over time. Look at Fauci.
No, eventually yes, but what's eventually?
Years, unfortunately.
Give me a timeline.
2 to 3 years.
No,
I mean, there's
I disagree.
There's too many people involved.
I don't think it ever does. One of the most formative.
I think it's 30 years.
See, that's why I believe we went to the
moon.
moon.
Next generation.
I think it's 30 years.
It's legacy for sure.
I think it's 30 years. You're going to the movies. You're sitting there saying, "No freaking way." Kids are like, "That would never happen." We're like, "We lived through this." But it's a movie 30 years from now, kind of like Argo, explaining what happened in Iran.
Maybe 50.
Yeah,
but
it's the most. Sorry, the most. Just because it goes on this, the most formative book I've ever read in my life. The book that I read that most formed my worldview is the Gulag Archipelago. All right, by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Right, and one of his biggest lines. Have you ever read the Gulag Archipelago? No. He wrote this while he was in the Gulag. He was a political dissident in communist Russia.
Pull up this book so people can see which book he's talking about.
He had to hide it. He wrote this over the course of 10 years while he was a political prisoner. He had to write it, and then he published it. It was illegal. It was punishable by 10 years hard labor in Russia. If you were caught reading this book when it came out in 1978, and it describes all of the horrors of far leftist, communist, tyrannical governments and how it represses freedom. And one of the lines in the very beginning of the book is, "We know they are lying. They know that we know they are lying. We know that they know that we know they are lying, and yet still they continue to lie." And that is the power.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
We know they are lying.
Okay.
This is Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Yep.
We know they're lying. They know that we know that they're lying. We know that they know that we know they are lying, and yet still they continue to lie.
Powerful.
That is the power principle.
Powerful.
That's the gall of the powerful. They'll do whatever they did whatever it takes to get power. Now they have to do whatever it takes to keep it.
There you go. So in reality, I think what we're all saying is nothing's going to change. This election's going to go
unless we change it.
No, but with the next 3 years, you think anything's going to change with 50-50 Senate and
this midterm is going to be a bloodbath.
How bad? How bad do you think it's going to be?
This midterm, it has to be a ground war.
Yeah, but you think it's going to flip? You think the House is going to flip?
I think in order to make the House flip, you have to match what they're doing. You have to take their playbook.
Well, then you got to start now because the election's next year.
It needed to start. It needed to start 2 years ago when their action front.
How much is Trump needed for that? How much is Trump needed to do
I go back and forth. That's a great question. I go back and forth because he riles up his side, but he also activates the other side. And that's something where, like, DeSantis, I think, activates his side without activating the other side. It's a really, really interesting question.
You think DeSantis could win?
I do. I especially think a coalition of DeSantis and a Tulsi or a DeSantis and a Manchin, and it won't happen for donation reasons. But I tell you, a coalition party like that, a coalition where
DeSantis,
Tulsi,
Manchin, oh my God.
Tulsi comes over. Don't forget, Tulsi comes over. Look what Tulsi did to Kamala twice already.
Yeah.
She would have to debate Kamala again if she was the VP.
Here's the problem with Trump. He could empower a big flip in the House if he could. He can't think small. That's his problem. So if you were equated to an actor, all he can think about is being in a blockbuster movie and winning an Academy Award. He's not going to go off Broadway. He doesn't give a damn about that. Same thing in baseball. He wants to play in the World Series, doesn't care about the minor leagues. he could get a groundswell of support to help flip the House
Sure.
and be a real force that way. But all he can think about and all he can talk about is they're going to reinstate me in August. He's only thinking about the biggest prize when they actually could use the power that he has on the ground level.
He's also, to your point, at 60 minutes he's going to talk. 59 minutes of that is going to be powerful. His base is going to be happy. He's going to say one thing in 60 minutes that's going to be a soundbite that, again, is then used and played to activate the other side. It's gonna be manipulated. He can't help himself but being edgy, and he wants that soundbite. He wants to dominate the news cycle. He thinks in terms of media. And again, what Sun Tzu? What does Sun Tzu say? Right? Never stop your enemy when he's defeating himself. Like that's what he does all the time. The best thing the Republicans have done in the last 2 years is shut up and let people hear what Democrats are actually saying.
Right.
Let them hear what you're actually saying. Like, whoa, what's this Green New Deal? Yeah. Hold on. If I give you all my money, you're going to change the weather? Yeah. Like, wait, what?
Trump has to worry because you talk about playing dirty. That district attorney in New York will do whatever she possibly can to take him down.
Absolutely.
And I think that's his biggest battle right now. He's got some serious issues on the legal front.
By the way, any thoughts on him taking down his blog? Page 6. Go to page 6. Let's talk about this. So he takes down his blog, and everyone's talking about it. Trump's blog page shut down for good, CNBC story. Former President Donald Trump's blog, a web page where he's shared statements after larger social media companies banned him for their platforms, has been permanently shut down, his spokesperson said on Wednesday. The page from the desk of Donald J. Trump has been scrubbed from Trump's website after going live less than a month earlier. It will not be returning, his senior aide Jason Miller told CNBC. When asked online later Wednesday whether the move was a precursor to the former president joining another social media platform, Miller replied, yes, actually it is. Stay tuned. Since leaving the office on January 20th, former president, who strongly hinted he may run for president again in 2024, has just made a handful of in-person appearances and has participated in interviews only with friendly media outlets. Thoughts?
I think it makes a lot of sense from a marketing standpoint. Pull it away. I ran a blog. If anybody here's ever blogged, it is actually pretty difficult and it's not very fruitful. So, I think what ends up happening with blogs too is when you're used to getting 1 million interactions, when you're not getting those interactions, it becomes cumbersome to do it. You're almost like, it's like showing up to a party that nobody's at. How many times do you go to a club and there's nobody in the club and you keep going to that club?
Yeah.
Right? So you just stop going. You pull yourself away a little bit. I've heard you talk about this a lot. You say some of the best things that you can do is disappear for a little while. Disappear for a little while. Let people, let the market kind of appreciate for you and your voice and your services again. And then when you come back big. I think that's kind of what he's doing.
Yeah, he was completely neutered without social media. He's an instantaneous guy. He wants immediate impact, immediate reaction. He couldn't get that with a blog. They'd have to have an army of people pushing that out that have access to social media. I mean, it felt like he was writing handwritten notes with a feathered pen and throwing them out with a carrier pigeon. It was so archaic. It just didn't work. They keep talking about this new social media platform.
Better be good.
I would shut up about it because there are people are also saying he's going to be reinstated as president. You're losing credibility with these statements. I personally don't believe there's some magical social media platform. Now, there might be a platform, but not access to billions or millions and billions of people.
I want him to try. Yeah. We need another platform. I do want him to try, but I agree with you.
It has to come out. There has to be some real evidence that there's this new social media platform.
Under promise, over perform. Right?
Either this is a method because one of the 4 media giants, social media virtual governments, is about to let him back on. Either there's talks behind closed doors that either Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, somebody's
definitely
letting them
not
back
Twitter.
on. Okay, I'm just saying.
Although he made Twitter a ton of money.
He did. But all I'm saying is there may be talks behind closed doors that one of them is open to the idea. And I think, you know who I think would be actually open to the idea?
TikTok.
I think it would probably be YouTube who would be open to the idea, and Google. And then it would probably be Facebook. Last for me is going to be, what do you call it? Twitter. Okay,
Jack
for
Dorsey.
me. Yeah. So I just don't, and by the way, Dorsey's in town right now with Miami for the Bitcoin deal that's taking place. Yeah. So, on that part, it is what it is. This is the other thing to be thinking about. There's a lot of things Trump's done, and after a month, 2 months doesn't work out. He's like, cut it.
That's true.
He's done this his entire career.
Bells.
People are surprised. It's steak, boom, cut it.
Airline.
Boom, cut it. Boom, cut it. Boom.
Water.
The guy does this his entire life, and people are surprised. And here's the reality of it. He still keeps winning.
Yeah.
The guy keeps still winning, figuring out ways to win. Look, the last 12 months are probably not the best 12 months of his career. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
The last 12 months are not the best 12 months of his career. But the guy is still number 45. It's going to be forever. The guy still became a billionaire. The guy still got the real estate market in Manhattan to go to a whole different direction. The guy had a show on TV that was a best-selling show for years. The guy went on Oprah Winfrey in the 80s and said, one day, if I ran for president, I'd win because I'm a winner. Who the hell predicts 40 years prior to? There's a lot. Simpson made an episode about the guy becoming a president, walking down the escalator. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you talk about here. The point is the following. Don't ever underestimate a person with 74 years of experience, having dealt in the streets of New York during the era of the mob, doing real estate, construction, winning, losing, media, marriage, scandal after scandal, all of that stuff. You're going to underestimate somebody like that?
Yeah.
No.
Big
Teflon
mistake.
Don.
Yeah, the guy's got a lot of experience.
Have you guys seen the documentary, the 4-part documentary on Netflix on Trump's life?
Oh, that was horrible.
Did you think?
It was horrible.
Well, I mean, I like the fact that they had all this arcade or this
It's a 4-part hit
footage
piece.
that everything he has done in his life is documented. I think we're thinking of something different. Well, it was not positive,
No,
but it was
we're thinking of the
interesting.
same thing.
If you go in there with an open mind, it's fun just to see the life he lived in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Let me ask you this question: Do you think the tech companies are in any real danger of government regulation, of them actually being able to do something? And could any heat be directed to them right now, meaning, hey, the first thing you have to do is let him back on, and then maybe this will delay the inevitable for you?
Let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question every year, a decade, and you tell me, okay? Who was a person who was winning most scared of, I don't know, in the 50s, in the 60s?
What do you mean?
So for example, if you're in the streets of New York, who were you most scared of in the 60s, 70s, 80s?
The mob.
Okay, the mob. Okay, okay. Go into 90s, 2000. Who were you most scared of in the 80s and in the 90s and 2000s? If you're coming up, like, oh my gosh, if they write a story about me, I'm screwed. Who?
Hillary Clinton.
No, National Enquirer.
Yeah, there you go. Newspaper,
Yeah.
National Enquirer. But it was newspaper,
Okay, media.
National Enquirer, and maybe the little bit of the media and
TV, the cable news.
Who are you scared of today if you say the wrong thing that
Tech
they're going to
companies,
cite?
right?
Twitter?
Social media.
Today's mob is the tech
No,
companies.
they deplatformed me.
Yeah, today's mob is the tech company, and people are actually scared today. Now, here's the thing. When you're powerful, the challenge with power is the following. You think it's forever. And unfortunately, it's not forever, especially if your power is not inspiration, if your power is based on control and fear. If it's driven based on control and fear, it's never going to be forever. If your power is based on freedom, choice, influence, example, inspiration, aspiration, there's a vision we're chasing, and you're somebody like that, that can last a long time. But this methodology of having power is going to have so much resistance. It's not going to last forever. It just doesn't.
No.
History tells you that no matter how big you are, history doesn't favor you if you lead the way you're leading.
And especially when we have a history of freedom in this country, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? There's just such a craving right now for common sense. You can kind of sense it out there. People are becoming onto this. And that's why I was saying, with all the hands that had to be involved in the wheel, if anything, did take place that wasn't legitimate, there's too many. It's too hard to keep a secret in this country. It's too hard to keep doing something if you're not being rewarded.
The era of authenticity. What am I telling? What have I've been preaching to you? We are entering the era of authenticity. If you are not in real life who you pretend to be, you have no future in media in this country. We are entering an era where people just don't want to deal with liars, cheats, thieves, and crooks.
Well, and it's not that you don't have a place, because there is a place for that, but I think people are going to figure you out.
Yeah,
That's the
you
biggest
can't
thing.
hide.
I've been in business now for 20 years. There were some times where I was going up against an opponent where my peers flipped on me, and they would say, well, he's saying this, and maybe he's right about you. And I'm like, no matter what I say in that moment, I don't have anything to say because that guy had a bigger platform, let's just say, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a year went by, 2 years, 3 years, and I'm like, shoot, look at. And the way you treat everybody, then all of a sudden there's 5 people saying, no, this is how he does business. 10 people saying, no, this is how he does. 50 people, no, never. 5,000, 10,000. Then people say, dude, what are you talking about?
Yep.
You're just a hater.
Yep.
So then, long term, those become qualified haters and everyone knows it.
Totally.
Once you fall into that category, let me tell you, that's permanent. If you envy somebody's success and that person's success, you have to watch, because who knows more about our day-to-day than you guys? Who knows more about it? Like, who knows more about what goes on in Valuetainment than the two of you? Like, how often are you here every day?
Mario?
No, but what do you see what happens here in Valuetainment every day?
Yeah.
What happens?
Yes.
You see it. You work it. You've been here day, night, last 6, 7, 8 months. So you see what's going on, right? If somebody wanted to know how Valuetainment's culture is, what do they say? Not ask me. Ask who?
The people in the
ask
trenches?
you.
Sure.
Ask Kai.
Yeah.
Ask the people that are here, right? If you want to know that, the approach you're taking, the fake side, you can't do that forever.
Yeah.
You will be exposed.
You have to.
You're going to be exposed.
And to
Absolutely.
your point here, where you were saying that people will understand it and there's a market for it, but you can ignore it. I mean, I look at myself. There was nothing more important to me than local news. For 15 years, I was in the middle. All I cared about was moving to the next big market, getting big.
You interviewed everybody. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. You name them, you were with them.
I lived the industry, and I watched the news all day. I mean, if it was on the news, it was important, it was relevant, it was real. It was, you had to believe it. I don't watch local news anymore.
Yeah.
Not only that, I do not watch it. If
That's
there was
yeah.
the only reason I would watch the local news is if there was an earthquake in LA, and maybe they wouldn't be lying at that point.
That
Right?
is such a great point. It is such a great point. We are there's a podcast, not to give free advertising out there, but there's a podcast called the Dark Horse Podcast, and it's Brett Weinstein and his wife, and they're phenomenal. It's not the easiest listen. They're two professors. They speak very, very quietly. It's a little NPR, but they're brilliant. And what he says is essentially he's an evolutionary biologist, and he says our brains have not learned to interpret the television as anything other than the window to the outside world. So we still look at the television the way 1,000 years ago a medieval person would look outside the window and see barbarians at the gate. So even though, like George Floyd, horrible, horrible thing that happened to George Floyd, horrible thing that Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd. But in reality, the fact that somehow became indicative of America, where everybody in the world got so upset about a person that they've never met in a place that they've never been, that it became a benchmark, a pillar moment for our society.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever been there. Nobody ever knew this guy. Nobody's ever been there. And we all acted like this happened to our best friend down the block.
I'm from Minnesota.
Are you really?
I was just there last weekend in
so
South
I
Minneapolis.
played for the
You had a great
I played
time.
for the St. Paul Saints. So I mean, but the point I'm trying to make is that if we are so focused, and we are now, we're so connected globally, and if we are all focused on the worst shit that's happening to people every single day. There's bad things happening to people every day around the world. We're forgetting, like, humans are killing it. We're doing so good.
Yeah.
We went from horse and buggy to the freaking moon in 70 years. Yeah. Like, we're crushing it. The biggest problem that we have in our world, they say climate change, and then after that is overpopulation. We're so good at living, not enough of us are dying. Poverty is down. Right? People that live in America, like just above the poverty line today, they live a quantifiably better life than 18th century royalty. They have cars, they have air conditioning, they have access to nutrition on a level that only royalty had 300 years ago. But because, like you're saying, we're so global in our thinking that all we do, especially people who are naturally anxious, that have anxiety, they wake up every day and they go, oh my God, the world is ending, because somebody halfway across the world had some bad things happen to
But
them.
if the news tells you the world is ending 24/7, I mean, you're going to be thinking the world is ending. So consuming the media
Turn
and the
it
news.
off.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to turn everything off, like you said, turn everything off to just calm your nerves, come back at it when you're a little bit more calm. But going back to what you said, it sounds like you wanted to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, have your own opinion. Do not rely on these pinheads on the news, because they don't give a damn about you and they don't even know what's going on in the world. All right, they have a focus and a plan each day of what they're going to do. The situation
From a pinhead on the news.
A former pinhead, man. I evolved. The George Floyd situation is just collateral for the news. It's just something that they can use and leverage for the next year. That's it. And the other thing too is we bash tech. We bash these media or tech companies. But how great is Google? I mean, I could not live without it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is I would almost say it's the greatest invention of all time.
Shout out
when
to
you talk about
DuckDuckGo.
Gmail and everything, and same thing with Apple. How much do we take that for granted? The technology that we have with that. So
every day.
My point is, make up your own mind. Try to stay informed as much as you can. But if you're on one side or the other, don't just listen to that voice. It's just going to make things worse.
Tom, that's part of the arrogance of Gen Z. That's part of the arrogance of Gen Z, that they think they're the smartest people to have ever lived because they have access to more information than anybody else.
By the way, I like what Nicholas Maru said. He said, if principles and values were a priority today, we wouldn't have this problem. Dems, Republicans is like a methodology. Today, it is tribalism, and to win at all costs, most of the officials have honorable in front of their name. You know, you're just kind of sitting there, you're wondering, hey, half the battle is, let's take a side to Republican and Democrat, go through the top 20 issues and ask people where you stand with it. And then, you know, you'd kind of fight for that rather than if you're a Dem, you have to be a loyalist to it. Nicholas gave $20. Nicholas, I'm giving you 10 times back. So Nicholas gets $200. Kai, let's make a note of that. And then this lady here who works at Luz Acosta Pandolfi gave $50. I work in Florida state government, and I have seen DeSantis' policies are changing hardcore Dems' minds and perception of him and his way of governing our state in a positive way. Luz, do you mind sending a text to 310-340-1132, 310-340-1132, and let us know what you do, what kind of business what kind of job do you do there, and then I may get you on a call here. So, so those are the two callers. Again, folks, if you're listening to this, you give a super chat, we may do 10x back on you if it's a common question that we may use, and we may even get you to call in here. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I was just going to say, this topic that we're talking about just has so many tentacles into every other topic that we want to talk about today. When you look at Gen Z or Gen whatever it is, and that story where they say 40% of people don't want to go back to work if you have to go back to the office. I mean, or the other thing, too, is we are in so much danger right now because we think each other is our enemy, and then you look at the alignment of a Russia and a China and an Iran, and they know damn well who their enemy is. Absolutely. There's one, and they go at them every single day. They wake up with a poster of them on the wall, and that's all they think about, and that's why we're so vulnerable right now.
Is there a Simpsons episode that says Trump's going to die in August of 2021? Is there a Simpsons episode? Kai, do you know that or no? Can you verify that?
Yes, just because they always.
Yeah, this guy just said, Yimi Marino said
the Simpsons are a nonstop Mandela effect.
But go ahead. Let me check this out. But go ahead. You were saying something.
And that's it. I pretty much said it. By the way, I can't believe the Simpsons has been on since 1987.
No, but to Tom's point, and this actually goes back to something, Pat, you said 2 episodes ago when I was on. You talked about how kind of the right fell asleep at the wheel while the Dems had really the far left, not the Dems. They had a plan to take over the ideological epicenter of America. They had a plan to take over the colleges. Yeah, the media, right? Yeah. And that is something, it's not just the Republicans. What that commenter said, he's right. It was just normal everyday Americans. Everybody else was worried about trying to make it, trying to feed their kids and build a life for themselves, while there was a far left ideological religion, essentially, that decided that they're going to come in and they're going to steal the robes in America. They're going to steal the robes. They're going to steal the courts. They're going to steal the judges. They're going to steal the professors. And then they're going to own the next 100 years from that. And that comes specifically from Mao's Red Book. It comes specifically from China. China is investing all this stuff. You talk about Russia. They're investing in this decentralization of American values. That's not a conspiracy. That's is the truth
taking
of it.
Place. By the way, I just looked at that episode about Simpsons. It was last year, August 27, 2020, not this year.
He outlasted them.
So what I will say, all right, and this goes back to the Gen Z, and you talked about how 40% of people don't want to go to work, and I believe, if I'm correct, it's something like 45% of people under 30 view socialism in a positive light. Again, this is because normal, quote unquote, normal people who engage in capitalism on a day-to-day, we don't spend time explaining the values of capitalism and why. Outside of valuetainment, we don't explain like how capitalism, like they hate imperialism. Capitalism ended imperialism. We don't have to go into Mexico and take them over anymore. We can open Starbucks and McDonald's and extract wealth in exchange for value. We don't, like LeBron James hates, structural racism. He became a billionaire by playing ball in hole. That didn't exist 200 years ago. In order for him to have raised himself, out of poverty and socially stratified himself 200, 300 years ago, he would have had to kill hundreds of thousands of people. He would have had to conquer. He would have had to have been a conquistador. He would have had to travel somewhere else and take their stuff. But now he can acquire that wealth and he can acquire that magnitude and that status by playing ball in hole.
He better earn it tonight. Okay,
that's capitalism.
Done. They need him tonight.
Like professional
less than 100 years, by the way. Less than 100 years. What he's talking about.
It didn't exist 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm. The guy's a billionaire playing a game. You're a billionaire playing a game.
He would have had to have been a captain of industry, a conquistador.
Parents are worried about whether they should let their kids play video games or not, because maybe if they don't let their kids play a video game today, it's an e-sport. Kids are making millions of dollars playing video games. It's a complete different world we're living in. A video game is a sport.
Yes.
40, 30 years ago, you're like, stop playing video games. Stop playing. Today, you're like, shit, that video game's like playing basketball. It's a sport. It's a different
Why
game.
is it a bad thing? Mobster kids, they wanted to make it big. They wanted to make millions of dollars too. And instead of playing an e-sport, they went out and robbed people. They jacked people. They did the Lufthansa heist. What if Henry Hill had esports? He wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Like, these aren't necessarily bad things. We are the least violent and the most productive generation in the history of our species. In the history of our species.
90% of media disagrees with you. Just so you know.
Yeah, they're full of it.
They think you're crazy. You have no clue what you're talking about.
And you know what? And they could say it to my face because even though I bench 500 pounds, we live in the first time in the history of humanity. I can't just kill them to shut them up.
Yeah.
300 years ago, I kill them and take their stuff. You got Anderson Cooper. You're 5'2", 140 pounds. You've got a mansion. I want that. Mine now. Boop.
Yeah.
That's it. Me and my gang take it. Like, this was humanity.
Let me give you a different story here. Let's change it up a little bit. So here's what just happened, which is, but by the way, absolutely crazy here. So, you know, most people don't understand NFTs, right? NFTs. What is an NFT? Non-fungible token. What the hell is an NFT? People still don't know what an NFT is.
You can't blame them.
Yeah, you can't blame them. By the way, there's a lot of people that still don't even know what a cryptocurrency, blockchain, they're still trying to learn what this is going on. This is on a whole different level. Kai, did you find the story or not that I emailed you? Check this out, guys. This is seriously insane to me. Okay, when I show this to you, I hope your reaction is as crazy as my reaction is when I saw this story. Italian artist sells an invisible structure for more than a sculpture for more than $18,000. You have to see the picture, by the way. Go up, see if the picture is there where he's standing there. That's the sculpture he sold. I'm not kidding with you. The Italian sculptor sold an invisible sculpture for $18,200. This is the era we're living in. Can you imagine? Guy says, "It's yours. Take it." You take it.
Hey, watch your step. Watch your step. My sculpture's here.
Hey, you know what?
Easy.
Hey, here's the problem. Half the left would be offended by it.
Oh my gosh!
Italian artist gets away with money laundering.
That's the actual sculpture that's sold for. Look how beautiful the sculpture. Press play. Just right there. Just lower your audio, Kai. Look at that. Beautiful. 18 grand right there.
Let
if you
your
wanted
imagination run wild.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now,
Buddha in contemplation.
Piazza della Scala, Milano sculpture, whatever, sells for $18,000 in the middle of the place.
What am I doing wrong? This is
everybody's thinking, what do I have that I could possibly sell? You know,
well, make it up.
Charlie Bit My Finger. Those guys made, you know, they're doing an NFT on the video. There's people, everything, everywhere.
There's people work 12 hours a day in this office, and they're going to see this, and they're just going to break down in tears.
You remember the movie Drop Dead Fred? Do you remember when the guy had an imaginary friend? This is like 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
It's actually a really good movie. It's a funny movie. So folks today who imagine, like my son is one that says, you know, he imagines he has a certain friend or he has certain things. Today you can imagine, say, I own the largest castle in the world and I'm willing to sell it to you for $1 million. It's right there. Take a look. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right
beautiful.
You know, one time my uncle had a very, very unique sense of humor, like a Yogi Berra sense of humor. So, but he couldn't stand arrogant rich people. My uncle, my dad's brother. So one day they're hanging out with a few friends. I've told this story a few times. They're hanging out with a few friends, and everybody's bragging. One guy says, yeah, I own a bunch of Paycon dealerships. Paycon in Iran is like Toyota dealerships. It's a French car, but Paycon dealership. Oh, wow, it's great. How about yourself? Yeah, I own multiple hotels. You know, oh, great. How about yourself? I own a waterfront property. How about yourself? I have this. So finally it comes to my uncle's time. Now, my uncle owns nothing. The only thing he owns is a deck of cards. That's it. He knew how to play poker, and he was a hustler, right? And he drove slow. He walked slow. Everything about him was slow. Everything was slow. But the funniest guy in our family. So he's sitting there. My dad's sitting there. He's like, oh, my gosh, we own nothing. What the hell are we going to say? So my uncle Victor says, you know, we have a lot of land. And he says, really? He says, we have a lot of land. He says, where's your land at? He says, in the center of Caspian Sea, we own 1,000 acres of land.
Clever guy.
And the guy's like, really? He says, yeah, our family, the David family, we own 1,000 acres of land in the middle of Caspian Sea. He says, what are your plans with it? When it dries up, we're going to build a hotel on top of it. And by the way, he's not laughing. So they're walking away saying, how the hell do you own 1,000 acres of land? Look, Caspian's. My uncle today would have been a billionaire convincing people he owns 1,000 acres of
Oh,
land.
that'd be
that's
way
some quick
easier.
thinking,
Way
too,
easier. That
right?
You'd have an NFT of Caspian.
Yeah, well, with climate change being the way it is, we think it'll be 7 or 8 months before the
Oh,
Caspian
my
Sea dries
gosh.
up.
So shout out to the person that sold that sculpture in
Oh
Italy,
my
man.
God.
More
That
power
is
to you.
money laundering, right? I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, it has to be.
Look, I
right?
thought I was a good salesperson, but officially I just met the greatest salesperson.
Hey, that's the
in the
free
world.
market, though.
He needs to write a book. He needs to write a book on
suppose so,
selling.
yeah.
Write a book on selling. I will buy it. I promise you. I'll be the first person to buy that book.
Oh, I hate when they give the socialist ammo.
So let's talk about Netflix. Netflix apparently wants to break into the video games business. Experts say that's a bad idea. If you want to go to page 3, Tom.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Netflix apparently wants to break into the video games business. Experts say it's a bad idea. This is a Business Insider story. With over 200 million paid subscribers worldwide, Netflix is an absolute behemoth. So what's next for Netflix? The answer to the question, at least in part, appears to be video games. Netflix is fishing around for a gaming executive to help it expand out its gaming initiative. While we still don't know how much about Netflix's plans, one thing is clear right now: Netflix getting involved in gaming is almost certain to fail. I do think they will try and do think they will fail. Wedbush, managing director, told Insider Michael Patcher told Insider, it's hard to make games. Indeed, the video game industry is a very risky business, and even entrenched studios with top-tier talent and years of experience regularly go under. We have the failures of THQ, Midway, Acclaim, 3DO, BAM, Eidos, Atari, Infogames, Interplane, and probably a few others to illustrate how hard it is. Patcher said, I don't see how Netflix could possibly think it can develop and sell games. Thoughts?
I don't like it. I don't know why they have to do it. I'm a big fan of staying in your lane. I mean, you have to evolve at times, but I mean, you got 200 million subscribers. How about focusing on a little bit better content? Because I love Netflix. It's great, but they could acquire some even better content here along the way. There's a lot of case studies of companies that have failed at this. You mentioned them, but even Google, Amazon, and Facebook have spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to come up with gaming, and it doesn't work. I mean, Coca-Cola, right? It's a very good company. They don't dabble in Persian rugs, right? Mm-hmm. Four Seasons doesn't sell lawnmowers. I mean, stay out of the gaming industry and work even harder on the content. Now, I'm saying this as a non-gamer.
Yeah.
So it's all tempered in that.
See, I think it's ambitious, and I think that they have the money to play with, and I think it's a good idea, frankly. I think that they have a lot of properties.
Are you a gamer?
Yeah, I like gaming, yeah. But I think...
Are you a regular gamer? Or are you like every week you're going to play?
I was before I was a valuetainer. Now I work 80 hours a week.
That's good. And you're losing weight. Right, Tom? But you're healthy. You're excited. You're getting
anxious on it,
This
too.
guy's complaining.
I'm not
He just
complaining.
said mankind is doing better. And this guy's bitching already.
Did that
after
sound like
4
complaining?
weeks of being here,
Did that
man.
sound
Do
like
you
complaining?
understand working 80 hours
that
at
sound
First
like
of all,
complaining?
His Tinder profile is going to change. I bench 515 pounds.
Which one? The Republican one or the non-binary one?
Pat, do you realize how many cavemen would have begged to work at Valuetainment?
I wish I could show you off by here. I wish
my
I could
God.
show the people. I matched with a girl on Hinge here in Fort Lauderdale, and she dumped me in 120 seconds. I lasted less than 2 minutes with this girl.
Well,
That's
has she
about
seen your
industry
bench press?
standard. 2
Yeah,
minutes.
2 minutes.
You were going to say something about Netflix.
Oh, yeah,
2
one more
minutes
thing
is
about
enough for a
Netflix.
fourth kid.
If you're an investor in Netflix, how are you not pissed off by this? Because there's a 95% chance they're going to fail.
I need to know more information. Gaming, people think that it's going to be this massive open world game, Grand Theft Auto. If they're going to try to compete on that level, it's a bad idea. But if they're gaming, if they're going to gamificate their shows, it's a good idea. Like what they did with Bandersnatch in Black Mirror. If they're going to get into interactive movies that they have already with cutscenes, and it's going to go back to like the old school. Remember when we were kids and there were books? If you think he did this, turn to page 79. If they're going to have the game, if they're going to gamify their shows, it's a really, really good idea. That's innovative.
Yeah, but Disney failed at that as well. They tried to gamify their IP and it didn't work.
That's Disney though. They also tried to wokeify everything and everybody left.
So let me ask this question. Kai, I'm asking this from you. David, are you a gamer or no? Are you do you game?
Yeah.
You're a gamer. Kai, are you a gamer? Would you consider yourself a gamer somewhat?
Not really. Casually, maybe.
Casual? Do you play every week or no?
No.
Do you play every
I
week?
agree with Kai. More casual on the weekends.
So what do you think about Netflix and gaming? I'm curious. Let's ask a different generation. What do you guys think about gaming? With Netflix going into gaming?
I mean, it makes sense if you can. I mean, now games are moving more into like a streaming where you can stream things.
Yeah.
And so if Netflix is popular for streaming, it makes sense. But I agree with Tom in a sense, just doubling down on what you're known for.
Doing great at?
Some of their IPs
Kai, what do you
are
think?
made for games. Like that movie Bright would
Yeah.
have been a better game than a movie.
They have
sure.
that. It's called
Kai.
Light Bright.
So I think it depends because going into gaming is very vague. It's not necessarily that they're making video games. They could be trying to compete with Steam, which is a platform where you buy games, same way as they do for Netflix, where you have a subscription model. So you pay a subscription and you have access to a wide range of games as long as you keep paying for the subscription. So I'd have to want to know more specifically what are they aiming for as opposed to just throwing out.
Or to Kai's point, let's say that they were trying to integrate Steam with Stitch, where you buy the game on their platform, but then you could also stream it to all the other people as well. So they have a marketplace. They have a massive marketplace. Then they have infrastructure in place to be able to connect these people to one another. I don't think it's the horrible idea that boomers think it is. I really don't.
You know what? They've got their work cut out for them in the streaming wars. I mean, now that Discovery has paired up with Warner.
Yep.
And there's and they're chasing Disney right now.
Well, they're going to be chasing Amazon soon. They have to do something that's going to differentiate.
And they haven't been profitable ever.
Let me ask you a question. So what are they going to do? Let's just say they don't do anything. What are they going to do? They're going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep doubling that. Who else has done it with that model? I mean, I understand staying specialized for a decade or two. I fully get that. I think there's strength in staying specialized for a while. But who has stayed specialized for 100 years? Who has stayed specialized for 50 years? Who has? Did Amazon stay specialized for 20 years? No. Did Walmart stay specialized? Walmart stayed specialized for about 50 years. But look what Walmart's been doing, right? So they're looking at everybody. Google is probably the one that's the most specialized. They tried a couple different things. Google Plus didn't work out for them. Go Facebook, fairly specialized, but they bought WhatsApp, they bought Instagram, they bought a few different things. If you go and look at the model where they're at, and you're talking streaming, where I can play the game on Netflix with 200 million users, and I can go in a way where my risk is not that high, I don't know. I think for Netflix, the next move could be, like, remember you used to go to Blockbuster, and you used to go to Blockbuster to buy what? Movies.
Yep.
But what did they do? They came up with video
games there, too.
And it actually worked.
Yeah.
It worked for Blockbuster.
Absolutely.
If Blockbuster didn't have their late fee debacle going back and forth, Blockbuster could still be around today. If they would have innovated.
I couldn't afford to buy video games when I was a kid, but I could afford to rent a game for $5.
$5,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you and I
same
both.
thing.
So I think there is a business model for what Netflix wants to do.
I'll tell you what else.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what else too, man. The concept of Microsoft, if I remember correctly, we have to go back and check, but I remember when Microsoft said that they were going to get into gaming, they caught the same pushback. They said, you guys are business software. What do you know about gaming? You're going to get destroyed. Nintendo's been doing this for 20 years. Sony, and now without Xbox, where would Microsoft be? Like Xbox is probably
That's
more
the
than half
point.
their company,
Yeah, that's the
right?
point.
Yeah, but that's a piece of equipment too, right? This isn't just what Netflix is talking about doing is virtual and streaming.
But they
and
were a
whatnot.
software company, and they became a hardware company.
What that does is that even decreases the risk. Anything that's more physical, you got more work, manufacturing, warehouse, all of that stuff you need to do. If it's going to be virtual, it's a lot easier to take that risk. I don't know.
Amazon
By the way, if you're
tried
watching
it and
this,
failed.
if you're watching this, if you think Netflix idea is a good idea, smash thumbs up. Like meaning them going into gaming. If you're saying absolute terrible idea, I'm a Netflixer and I would never want to have video games. I play my video games on Twitch and I go watch my videos on Netflix. Let us know. Put thumbs down. So good idea, thumbs up. Bad idea,
The
thumbs
person
down.
we should talk to is Kurt Schilling. Kurt Schilling blew his entire major league salary on trying to start a game.
Remember that? And he got the big loan from the state.
Oh yeah, he did. He made $50 million disappear more than
Oh, Pat, if we had a podcast back in the day when that happened, and because they bailed him out.
Yeah, they did.
Or they gave him this huge.
They gave him, like-
his whole fortune was gone.
Yeah,
Does he still have money today?
he has his pension. So he gets like, what is that? The big league pension is what, $10,000
I mean,
a month?
he tried
Oh
to start a
my gosh.
major
Are you
gaming
kidding
company.
me?
Like
Schilling.
150 million.
And Schilling was a World Series.
Yeah.
This guy was. Did he win the Cy Young?
He should be a Hall of Famer,
Well, he's
but
got
he's a
multiple-
conservative, so
yeah,
they're
he
not going
should
to put
be
him
on
in.
Did he win the Cy Young?
Oh yeah,
Multiple times or one
Well,
time?
he won the World Series.
One time Cy Young, but multiple times. He's one of the best pitchers in
There's
the
no
last.
question
He was a
about it.
big
Yeah,
game
yeah.
pitcher. Money.
Yeah.
you know?
Very interesting. Well, we'll see what's going to happen. Now, by the way, just a question for you guys. Here's a question for you.
Trevor
I'm curious
Bauer, if
about.
you're listening, go into gaming.
Got a question for some of you guys here. If you're watching this and you're subscribed to this podcast, not Valuetainment, this podcast, if you are a subscriber, if you're not, click on the subscribe button. But if you are, and if you've also clicked on the notification, I'm curious. People are telling me some channels get notified, some don't. I want to know if you got notified today when we went live. If you did, just say thumbs up. I got notified. If you didn't, put thumbs down. No, I didn't get notified. I just kind of want to see. I'm looking at the charts right now where we are. Right now, we got 10 thumbs up. So I'm curious to know 10 thumbs down. Based on that, I'm curious to know if you are getting the notification when we are going live with our podcast. Thanks, guys. Okay, I just got another comment here that came out. It says, PBD, thank you for inspiring young entrepreneurs. I know you grew up in Glendale, but there's a kid from Nella inside of you, Northeast LA. PBD knows what's up. Much love, brother. Robert Rodriguez gave $25. Let's give Robert Rodriguez $250 for starting off his Thursday morning with us at 7:20 morning in LA. I used to play baseball in basketball in Northeast LA. But there you have it. Okay, all right, let's continue. Next story. Well, let's see what you got. Fauci. Should we go to Fauci or... let's do the Buffett story. We're going to
finish with Fauci? We got to get to Fauci.
Warren Buffett's favorite market indicator hits 200%, signaling stocks are overpriced and a crash may be coming. Business Insider story. The Buffett indicator takes the combined market capitalization of all publicly traded U.S. stocks and divides it by the most recent quarterly figure for gross domestic product. Investors use it as a rough gauge of the stock market's valuation relative to the size of the economy. The Wilshire 5000 total market index climbed as high as $44.3 trillion on Tuesday, while the latest estimate for the first quarter GDP is $22.1 trillion, putting the Buffett indicator at 200%. That reading is well above the 187 it reached in the second quarter of 2020, when the pandemic was in full swing and GDP was 12% lower. The billionaire investor Berkshire Hathaway CEO added that the indicator hit a record high during the dot-com bubble that should have been a very strong warning signal of the crash to come. The yardstick also spiked in the lead up to the global financial crisis, making it a useful tool for anticipating market downturns. This is not looking good if he's accurate. It's looking like market crashes coming. Tom, what are your thoughts on this?
Here's my thoughts on this. I don't care if it's Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett. If he's drunk in Margaritaville right now, what about this country and the world right now screams of stability, strength, and consistency? Do I think a market crash is coming? Hell yes. Okay? I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't know how, but do I think it'll eventually happen? I'm going to go with a yes.
How many people that are really, really successful in the market have to come out and say, this thing's about to crash before people start going, this thing's about to crash? What's his name from The Big Short?
The doctor?
What's his name?
No. What's his name? He kidding me if we follow this guy.
Kai. What's his name?
Michael Burry?
Yeah.
Michael Burry, yeah.
Yeah. He said this 3 months ago. This is, look, what are we going to do? We're going to go to negative interest rates? I mean, how much longer can the Fed keep blowing air in this balloon? Eventually, there has to be a correction. Eventually, we have to recognize. I mean, the White House is still trying to claim that we're 1% inflation. With 1% inflation, lumber is up 150%. People are buying houses at over market value because they don't think new houses are going to be built. This thing is coming, and it's coming hard and heavy. This thing, now the big question I have, because this is something that's above my pay grade, how do we insulate ourselves from it? I'm over leveraged in crypto as it is. I'm way over leveraged in crypto. But how do we insulate ourselves? This thing is coming. We could see it like a slow motion train wreck. It's happening right in front of us. How do we insulate ourselves?
Ride it out.
Here's a question for you. What is the difference between a market crashing like it did in 2008 and a market tanked 38%, right? I mean, it was a scary time when a market tanked 38%. The whole mortgage, real estate bubble that we had, or in late 90s when the tech bubble, the whole same thing happened there as well in Silicon Valley. What is the difference between a market crash and major hyperinflation? What's the difference?
The time, the amount of time it takes to recover.
So what is the difference? Let me ask the question one more time. So one is the market crashes, meaning the Dow goes from whatever, 30, what is it right now? 34,000 and change, 33,000 and change. So the Dow goes from 34,000 to 22,000 versus the Dow stays 34,000, goes to 40,000.
But your money's
But
worth
inflation goes up 10%. What is the difference?
I would guess a lot of wealthy people are going to be less wealthy in a crash as opposed to inflation, where it affects everybody day to day. That would be my microeconomic explanation for you.
Ebbs and flows. Markets can crash and then they can rise. Inflation never goes back down. So the value will never come back.
That's the point. So the point is, in a situation like this, either Buffett's going to be right, we're going to have a major market crash, or we're going to have hyperinflation. One of the two is going to happen. If it's
Fun. Good options.
Just so you know, if the market crashes, look, everybody loses money, okay? But if there's hyperinflation, guess what happens? The rich get richer and the gap gets wider.
Yeah.
Why? Because the rich own, they have more equity, and the poor don't.
Yeah.
The poor are day-to-day cashing spending. So if it does happen that it is hyperinflation, this means if you don't own assets that are not duplicatable, you're going to lose a lot.
Pensioners really should be afraid. People with pensions.
If you own assets that are not duplicatable, you're about to make a lot of money. So, but either way, it's very important to understand the difference between the two. Market crash is one thing, inflation is another thing. Inflation may happen, and some wealthy people may be sitting there saying, listen, I don't care. My $10 million, my $100 million real estate portfolio is now $150 million. Yeah, people can't afford it. I get it. It's expensive. I get it. But guess what?
I'll take loans off of it.
But a person who doesn't own any assets, they're sitting there saying, I can't afford to pay $10 for this gas. I can't afford to pay $6 for this milk. So that's what one of those two is going to happen. And I'm thinking the inflation is going to hit the poor and middle America way harder than a market crash.
Could there be something a little bit more in the middle, like a correction, or is he going all-out crash? I mean, there is a little bit of a difference there, too.
We're going to have both happening at the same time. We are already in the beginning stages of inflation, whether it gets to hyperinflation. I hope that there's really, really smart people.
I don't think both is going to happen. You mean to tell me you think the market's going to, where's it going to crash? Tell me where Dow's. Can you pull up Dow right now?
How can they keep rates this low?
No, I know that. But can you pull up Dow right now? Pull up Dow right now. Okay. Dow is 34,000. Go to 5-year. Yeah, go to the 5-year. That was good. So 5 years what? Just go to max. Forget it. Go to max. Okay. If you go to max from 1986, okay, it was 1981, 993, 1986. Keep going slowly. Do exactly what you're doing. Go slowly. Okay. When do we hit 2000? Go to 2000. Okay. 2000 is what? 87. Okay. When do we hit 3,000? Go.
Let me ask you this.
Watch this, though. But I want to show you something here. Keep going. 3,000. Keep going. Go to the next market high before it drops. Go to whatever looks like 2,000. Keep going. Boom. We hit 11,000 right there, wherever it was. I just saw 11,000. Okay, 11,192. Give me the low. Give me the low right after that. What's the low? Okay, we dropped 30%, let's just say. Now go to the high in 2007. We hit 14,000. What's the drop? 6,500. Go to the low. 6,500. I remember that.
There's
yeah, okay.
2008, yeah.
Now keep going up. This entire time, Gerard, just so you know, we're printing money this entire time.
Money,
I don't know if you know that, or we keep printing money. We keep printing money. Keep going. 128 months of economic expansion. Boom. Then COVID happens. It drops to what? 18,000? I think it's 18,000 if you get it right.
We've had $6 trillion since February of 2020.
You're right.
$6 trillion.
What I'm trying to say to you is, I don't think the market's going to crash. I think inflation and interest rates are going to hit the market. When it does, to me, it is a form of a market crash. But those who don't own assets that are not duplicatable are about to get destroyed.
Yeah, got to have property.
You know the whole thing about rich get richer, poor get poor. Guy asked me a question one time, Chris. He got animated. He was upset. You rich people. He's still over. You rich people. This was in 2009, 2000. You rich people. You have all your money probably in offshore accounts. I'm like, dude, I don't have any offshore.
Do they still have those?
So you rich people do this. I said, what you rich people? Here's what rich people do. Look at the gap. You cannot tell me this is not a Republican or Democratic thing. It is a thing that's happening. Everybody agrees that rich keeps getting rich and poor keeps getting poor. Yes, because there's this thing called compound interest. If I'm making 12% a year or 10% a year and you keep wasting your money, making 0.5% on a saving account, you're right. You are never going to compete.
You're losing against inflation.
You're losing every single year. So you ought to study how to. So let's just say inflation happens. So now becomes the hedge. How do I hedge against the market crash? How do I hedge against a market crash?
Gold.
What other way?
Property.
What other way?
Ethereum.
Now we're
okay.
talking.
How do I hedge against a market crash? How do I hedge against a market crash? depending on my age, on where you are, maybe go look at the way your money's managed. How much equities do you have? How much bonds do you have? How much fixed do you have? Where's your money at based on your age? So you may want to have your portfolio.
See, I'm a little afraid because my parents have been saving for retirement, saving.
Yeah.
They've been austere for years for retirement, and they're going to save a certain amount of money that they think is going to be good enough for them to live out the remainder of their life. And if inflation hits, that money is going to be halved. So they're not going to have the wherewithal, and I don't want them to have the wherewithal and ability to go out and be an earner into their 70s. That's not that I don't want that for my parents. But if they think that they're going to save $5 million and that's going to hold them for the next 20 years, and that turns out to be essentially $2.5 million in equity, that's going to be that's a pretty devastating thing.
You know what we're learning today with the conditions that we have? It is so weird what we've done with print. This printing money thing is a new thing. This printing money is not like a
They robbed us.
Yeah.
And they gave it to themselves.
Yes, you're right. They did. And by the way, even Stanley Druckenmiller, who's a $10 billion, guy worth $10 billion, we showed on the last podcast. He says, you have no idea how much money I've made during this time. He says, they keep printing money thinking the money flows to the poor in the middle America.
Never does.
All the money flows all the way to the top.
It goes to Raytheon.
All I'm saying to you is, the form of a market crash, I think if it happens, it's subtle. It's not as big as people think. Maybe a 20 to 30%, there may be something like that. But that's going to be a time. It's not going to last a long time. The inflation, if this happens, if milk goes $8, if you're buying
gas,
if gas goes to, I predict that gas going to be $5 to $10. I predict it's going to go $5 to $10.
$10 gas is nuts.
But but $10 gas is nothing to a person who has money. So I'm trying to tell you, $10 gas. So it's not a market crash. It's those who are not making the right decisions financially today. If somebody's listening to this and they're saying, well, Pat, how do I fight against this? Here's what I will say. Whatever you're doing the next couple of years, make money and figure out a way to buy some assets that are not duplicatable.
Give me an example of non-duplicatable assets.
Can a person duplicate land?
No.
Okay.
No.
Can a person duplicate gold? Can a person duplicate Bitcoin? Can a person duplicate a Michael Jordan rookie card? Can a person duplicate a Mickey Mouse? You know the Wayne Gretzky card I sold? You know the Wayne Gretzky card? Did you hear about what happened with the Wayne Gretzky card?
It sold again.
That's not your card.
There was two of them. It was the other guy's card.
The $3 million card?
I sold it for $1.29 million. Okay? 6 months ago. There was two of those cards. I had the PSA 10. The other guy had the PSA 10. Mine was a little lesser quality than the other PSA 10. The people who knew, like there's 3 Mickey Mantle cards right now that are PSA 10, right? 52 tops. The lowest quality PSA 10 because they gauge it based on when it was graded. So depending on when your card got graded, it's a more legitimate PSA 10. So that's how they gauge it. So if you got gauge a certain era, well, they're giving away PSA 10s. If you got gauge in a later era, well, they're not giving away PSA 10. So the three numbers.
I'm going to start buying packs of cards like lottery
it's
tickets.
Between $15 million to $30 million. The difference between the 3 Mickey Mantle cards. Between $15 million to $30 million. The lowest PSA 10, the highest PSA 10. My Wayne Gretzky card I sold 6 months ago for $1.29 million. It was a record. Most expensive hockey card ever sold. The record got broken last week. The card sold for $3.5 million. Same exact card, except owned by the other guy. $3.5 million because you cannot duplicate a Gretzky card.
Some socialist is listening to this in a Brooklyn cafe and their blood is boiling right now.
All I'm saying to you right now is you have to take your finances very seriously. Market crash, fine. Inflation, scary. Why? Incredibly scary if inflation takes place.
Well, look, this is reflecting Jimmy Carter's administration.
It really is.
And inflation was never higher than then, and the exact same thing is probably going to happen. I mean, he's following the playbook of one of the least successful presidents we've ever had. Well done.
And we're gonna engage in proxy wars after.
You know what I want to do? I want to call this lady. I want to call Luz. If you're on, I'm about to call you Luz Acosta Pandolfi, who works with DeSantis. Okay, she's saying DeSantis is making some headwaves. I'm going to call this Luz here. Luz, let's see if you're going to pick up. If you're listening, we are about to call you live. She works with DeSantis, and she's saying that he is making some positive influence. Let's see. She works for the government of the state of Florida. Can you hear her or no?
I did in my headset.
Can you hear her or no? Okay, good. Here we go.
Hello.
Luz, how are you?
Oh, how are you?
I'm very good. So, Luz, you are based out of Florida?
Yes, I am Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, very cool. I know where that is. When Department of Insurance is also out of Tallahassee. I've been to Tallahassee a few times.
Seminoles.
Yes, yes. All of our state agencies are housed here in Tallahassee.
So-
I work for the Florida Department of Revenue.
So you work for the Florida Department of Revenue. Tell us what you think Governor DeSantis is doing. And I think a big part of this was after Gerard made a comment saying he feels a DeSantis, Tulsi Gabbard, or DeSantis Manchin, a Manchin ticket could be a good one. And then I saw your comment come 2 minutes after he made that comment. So what are your thoughts about DeSantis? What can we know about him?
Well, the simple fact is he's making common sense judgments. And for as much as you want to hate Republicans, and I'm not a Republican, I'm an independent.
Okay.
But I work with a lot of Democrats, and they're following, Republicans are out to get us. They hate us, and this and that. And it's like, and right with Trump, they were just, DeSantis is just following Trump's coattails. And I'm like, no, you have to look at policy. Stop looking at favoritism.
Amen.
And look at what is being done.
So let me
One of
ask
the
you: do you like DeSantis more than you like Trump?
I can honestly tell you I like both.
Okay.
I didn't vote for Trump in 2016
Interesting.
because I'm from New York. I lived in New York.
Okay.
Me too.
Went to school there.
Yeah.
And I knew how Trump was, and I was thinking, okay, Trump is going to make a mockery of everything. The man is just about for himself and making a dollar.
Yeah.
He will sell us to the highest bidder if he's president.
Interesting.
I could hear that sexy
That's
New York
interesting.
accent the whole
Yeah.
time. I knew it from the first word she said. I was
He's
like,
already flirting.
I was
Don't
like,
let
this
Gerard
chick is
get you.
from New
Stay
York.
focused here, Luz. We want to get value from you. Tell us
Yeah.
what policies of
I'm
DeSantis
trying to
is
get in with the
influencing
governor,
the other
bro. I'm
side.
trying to get in with the government.
The last few, especially the one that he most recently signed concerning the girls and same-sex
Yeah.
playing in sports, that has been a milestone in leaps and bounds in these last couple of days.
In what way?
Because a lot of people, even though they are liberal, they did agree that is not fair. Because boys, even if they change to be a girl, they're still biologically a boy.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be stronger and faster than a girl, biologically.
Do you know what
So-
she's talking about? So
Yeah, of course I know what she's talking about. Yeah, I
The
saw that.
Biden
Of
administration. So, like, technically, I could, without transitioning, I could technically say that I was a woman and still have 1 year of eligibility left and go play softball against 17-year-old girls tomorrow
You'd break every record.
with a metal bat, mind you. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's insanity.
Are you thinking about it?
If it was money involved, I'd do it tomorrow.
200-foot fences, too.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was one of the most recent things that has a lot of people, thinking twice. And it was one of the things that was happening, especially now when for re-election, I did vote for Trump because in those first 4 years, he did change my mind.
Huh. Interesting.
thought-
So you didn't in 16. You did in 2020.
I was the same.
Yes.
And
Because he
now
proved
you're
himself.
saying,
I was the same.
saying that if DeSantis ran, so you would much rather have DeSantis run in 2024 than Trump.
I don't mind either one because Trump has shown a lot and he's proven me wrong
Yeah.
in my original assessment of him. The only thing I can be like everyone else. His delivery on saying things, that was my main issue with him.
Okay.
But it wasn't that he wasn't telling the truth. He was telling the truth.
No, it's just
It was
needlessly
just-
adversarial. Yeah.
He can't help
Exactly.
himself.
Yeah, I would go
And
with
it's-
DeSantis.
You would go with DeSantis
totally,
yourself.
The less confrontational, better chance to align
Yeah.
people. And, it follows that platform. Or Jimmy Carter turns it over to a strong governor from a big state, Ronald
right.
Reagan.
But it's interesting that you said that the Democrats are being won over. Is there anything in particular that DeSantis is doing that's helping to kind of bridge that gap?
It's all the little things that he's doing, especially towards state employees with us, because we just received a increase 2 years ago, and before that it was 7 years before that. We have the union that comes hard at us. Oh, we need to stop this. We need to stop that. However, because I am considered an exempt employee, I'm not covered by the state's AFSCME union. I am technically what is considered, I work at the leisure of the governor. If budgeting cuts happen to happen, guess what? Being that I'm a select exempt employee, mine could be one of the first positions to go.
Hey, I'm not essential too. Yeah.
Awesome.
However,
Luz, thank you so much for this. Appreciate you. Stay on with us. We appreciate you listening to the podcast. Thank you.
Love you guys. Keep doing a great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
She said common sense. That's what
That was
people
interesting.
want.
Really
Common sense,
interesting.
man.
Influence is taking place. She's working for the state. That's pretty weird
Interesting.
to be working for the
Interesting.
state. You're not making a lot of money, but
No.
you're seeing the different impact taking place.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
that was great to hear. Okay, all right, sounds good. By the way, somebody said here, Pat, when you go live, I do get your notifications, and I do see your podcast when it goes live. Guys, if you are, that's great. I suggest if you're listening to this and you want to be notified the moment we're going live, click also the notification button after you subscribe so you're notified every time we go live on the podcast. Okay, next topic. Amazon backs marijuana legalization, drops weed testing for some jobs. So Amazon backs marijuana legalization, drops weed testing for some jobs. This is a Fox Business story. Amazon said on Tuesday it supports a proposed U.S. legislation to legalize cannabis at the federal level and would drop weed testing requirements for some recruitments. Amazon will also no longer screen as job applicants for marijuana use for any position non-regulated by the Department of Transportation. Amazon's consumer boss, Dave Clark, said, while many U.S. states have legalized marijuana use, employers have so far largely refused to work with the industry as cannabis is still classified substance at the federal level. Amazon was hit with a proposed class action lawsuit which claimed that the company was violating a New York City law by testing applicants for jobs at local facilities for marijuana. The company does not allow marijuana sales on its platform. I think yet, but I think it will very soon. Tom.
You know, this clearly speaks of one thing. Bezos and Lauren Sanchez are throwing some ragers. And he's getting high, and it's a bad look for the company if he's not pro-marijuana. I mean, come on, we got this figured out.
That's why you got divorced, Tom. That's why I got divorced.
You know, they have north of 1 million employees. You think they're going to be able to continue to grow if they're going to ban everybody that smoke pot? Give me a break. I mean, that's going to slow down their growth, so they had to do that. And plus, we all know they're gearing up for the pharmaceutical. They're going to. I think what they do in pharmaceuticals is going to dwarf what they do with Amazon Prime Video. I mean, this is just ripe for them to destroy. Clearly, there's a market in CBD. They're going to be doing that. And they're all in on getting it legalized federally. And if Amazon is behind it, it's getting done. They didn't want a union in Alabama. It didn't happen. What they want, they get done over. They're going to be selling it within a year.
I think
selling it within a year.
Some version of it. Something.
Yeah,
We're going to see
sure.
some real legitimacy with the pharmaceuticals.
There's CBD already on Amazon. Absolutely. I think, look, again, what pisses me off, and I got to be honest, it really does tick me off, is we are going to be able to buy weed that's delivered to you via a drone before we let people out of prison who are in jail for selling a leaf. And that bothers me to no end. It bothers me to no end that Kamala Harris in particular has put, I think, Pat, you told me it was 1,400 people in jail for minor marijuana offenses, and she has the balls to own stock in marijuana companies. Can you imagine the balls on this woman to put people in jail for weed and then be a part owner in a weed company? So look, I think, if this is a free market thing, I love it. I think you should be able to buy weed. I think you should be able to buy mushrooms. I think you should be able to buy LSD. Whatever you want, whatever a consenting adult wants to do in their free time, they should be allowed to do it. And you know what? If I can have a drone deliver it to me, even better. Even better, man. Deliver me my Cheetos, my weed, straight into my room. I don't need to leave. I'm a happy camper, okay? But I cannot live in a society where my fat ass can be sitting on a couch eating Cheetos and smoking a bowl while somebody is in jail for 30 years for trying to provide me with that happiness. It's nonsensical that we are still doing this. Let these people out of jail tomorrow. Let them out of jail today. If Amazon is able to sell weed and you have people in jail for selling weed, we have a morally corrupt society. I'm sorry. That to me is one of these things. It's just it's a wrong that we have to right.
Be nice if they could.
Yeah, I did this last time I was on too. I left the room with an awkward silence. I'm sorry. Let me tell a joke.
Do you know
quick.
anybody in prison for selling weed?
I do.
Okay.
Or I would say I know people that went to prison for selling weed, and it irrevocably changed their life for the worse. We don't, and that's the other thing about not to get on
big volume of weed.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but weed is also other things, right? Like, I mean, you do weed, you do this, you do that, like, you know, whatever. I mean, when they were rehabilitated, they were never anything but an ex-felon either. So it irrevocably changed their life for the worst. And again, we're looking at it now that this is like a Fortune 5 company is selling this stuff, you know. But you know, Tom from the Jersey Shore goes to jail, and then you have now even more. If you want to talk about a real guy, Russ Ulbricht. Russ Ulbricht is going to spend the rest of his life in jail for having the Silk Road, which essentially was the dark web Amazon for drugs. And now Amazon's going to sell drugs. So, again, we have a morally corrupt society. I'm sorry.
I think they're going to open up pharmacies inside Whole Foods, too.
I think they, and dude, I think they should. Look, you're consenting adults. And also, the whole idea of you have to drug test your employees, it says more about your management that they can't tell when their employees are messed up, that they have to go drug test. Yeah. I remember being in the minor leagues, man. I remember being in the minor leagues, and weed was illegal. But we could take as many Percocets as we want. Like Toradol was fine. We could get a shot in our arm that made our body go numb, and then you'd go play. And now guys would play, and pitchers specifically, they would turn their bodies into chemistry sets that once every 5 days they can go out and throw 95 miles an hour, tear everything in their arm. They wouldn't be able to wash their hair after the game. It would take them 3 days to lift their arm up, pop a couple perks, and get back out there and do it again. Now, you do that for 5 or 6 years, and then the team decides they don't want you anymore. Hey, thanks for your service, bud, and they cut you, and now you got to go be a gym teacher somewhere or gas station attendant, and you don't get to tell your body, hey, I don't need 30 perks this week. And now they're addicted to painkillers, and the next thing you know, this is who their life is. Now, I'm not saying that weed is great and people should. I don't even smoke weed, to be honest with you. I'm joking. I don't even smoke weed. I don't like who I am on weed. I don't need anything to help me be fat, lazy, and hungry. I got that covered, okay? So that I'm good at. Came naturally. This came with the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip with
that's
that.
A gift.
All right? Yeah,
it's a gift, man. You know,
but
shake what your mama gave you.
But I'll tell you what, when my body was hurting and I was playing ball, you could give me some Celebrex and a Percocet and I'd be zoom, and then a perk would make me a little loopy, so I'd take an Adderall to get back on. And I never once thought I was taking drugs. I thought I was playing the game. I thought I was doing what I had to do to win. But that's a party. Yeah. I got a Celebrex, a Percocet, and an Adderall,
and those are also
partying,
way more addictive than marijuana, by the way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And you know, the sad thing is NFL players that can't monitor or regulate their pain.
Imagine that.
know, with marijuana, which would help them.
And you know what we did? We drank ourselves to sleep. Mm-hmm. So all I'm saying is that this is an antiquated model. It's an antiquated model. A lot of it comes from robber barons who owned certain industries and use lobbying to not have those industries be competed against, both alcohol and, believe it or not, timber. There was a big reason that marijuana was illegal in the first place is, I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe it was Rockefeller owned millions of acres of wood, and hemp actually was a better source for pulp for paper. And he wanted hemp illegal so that they had to use his wood for paper in every school in America instead of the hemp pulp. Somebody has to look that up, but yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one time I sat down with Oscar Goodman. I don't know if you know Oscar Goodman.
Mayor
is from Mayor of Vegas.
Yeah. That was a
great
three-time
Mayor of Vegas, and then his wife's now been the 2-time Mayor of Vegas. So for the last 20 years, the Goodmans have been running Vegas.
Reminds me of Better Call Saul.
And he was in a movie Casino. He was in a movie Casino representing, when the whole thing was taking place, Sharon Stone, all those guys were at his house. They were putting parties together. And he told me, he said, I said, so what do you think about drugs? He says, anybody wants to use it, use it. How about prostitution? Do it. It's your body. How about this? How about stealing? Nope. If you're going to steal from me, we should cut your thumb off. I said, cut your thumb off. He says, yes, because you're taking something that's mine.
Yes.
I think what is happening.
Do no harm.
What is happening naturally, libertarian philosophies are creating so much momentum.
Hey.
Naturally. The only challenge is.
Freedom wins.
The only challenge is there's never been a libertarian candidate worth promoting that knows how to inspire and convert mindset. It's such a simple, logical concept to sell to people. They've not had a good crusader yet, and hopefully they'll find somebody that'll be able to do it. Let's go to the story, the Fauci story. Our society is really totally nuts, Fauci wrote in emails now made public, USA Today story. Emails sent by Dr. Anthony Fauci in the early days of the pandemic reflect the thoughts of a patient but wary man who was flabbergasted by his overnight celebrity. Hundreds of emails were obtained by the Washington Post and other organizations through Freedom of Information Act requests. Fauci responds to hundreds of interrogators, many he doesn't know, often in-depth answers. Fauci also corresponded on multiple occasions with George Gao, a top infectious disease official in China. Gao sent an encouraging note when Fauci was being blasted by Trump supporters who blamed him for supporting social distancing rules that closed schools, tanked the economy, and threatened Trump's re-election prospects. Thank you for your kind note, Fauci replied 3 days later. All is well despite some crazy people in this world. Fauci marveled at an April 2020 story titled Cuomo Crush and Fauci Fever, Sexualization of These Men is a Real Thing. On the internet, Fauci forwarded the email to someone whose identity was redacted. urging the person to click on the link. It will blow your mind. Fauci wrote, our society is really totally nuts. It continues. Another story by Business Insider. A leading scientist said the world needs to understand the origins of COVID-19 to prevent COVID-19. Okay, this goes into a different email. I'll stop right here. Go with the email. So tell me, Fauci emails, what are your thoughts? Gerard, you can go first. Try to hold it together, by the way.
Oh, man. Bro, first of all, whoever wrote that glowing review, I was watching CNN last night because I hate myself, and they were like, those emails showcase the one honest man in a dishonest organization. I was like, I'm going to say stuff that's going to get you kicked off YouTube, bro. I got to calm it down for just a second. Dude, I got kicked off of Facebook. I got kicked off. I got demonetized. 120,000 plus followers. I had built this thing over years. National tours. I had all my videos. I was selling my tours. And Facebook, I woke up one day and they just said, that's it. You have restricted access, restricted reach. My videos I used to put out a video, and no matter how bad the video was, I can count on 100,000 views. Fine, whatever. Now I put out a video, if I get 10,000 views, it's a good video, right? Like I had 15 videos get over 1 million views. Now if I get a video gets over 10,000, it's a big, big thing. Facebook just turned me off. They turned the spigot off, and the money I made went away. And you know what I did for them to do that? I shared an article from the ex-CDC director who said that it's very likely that this disease came from the Wuhan lab. Now, I had been skeptical, in fairness, I had been skeptical of everything I had been told from the beginning. I was very, very, very cautious when this first happened. But then after 2 months, it really took me 2 months to be like, man, there's something real weird about this. Was everything that they described, that there's, anybody who, if you don't wear a mask, if you're in a closed air circuit area, if you're not wearing gloves, you're in extreme danger. My first thought was, growing up in New York, man, I'm like, the homeless are dead. There's going to be homeless piling up in the streets. This is going to be a nightmare. My God, these people sleep on the subways on top of each other. They live in squalor. They eat food out of the garbage. These people are going to be dead. Mm-hmm. And then when they weren't, and everybody was inside, and it was like, the homeless came out like deer in the middle of the night, and I'm like, man, these people are fine. Something's not being told. And then they started with this mask, and the mask stuff, as if this was like a hazmat suit. And now I've worked construction. Anybody who's ever drywalled, anybody who's ever sanded in one of those masks knows when they take that mask off and their mouth is completely full of particles, that's BS. Anybody who's ever farted through underwear and jeans and still smelt it knows it's BS. The fabric isn't doing nothing. If you're smelling that methane, then a virus can get through that mask. They placeboed us. And you're looking at this emails and they're trying to cover this stuff up as if, he told the mask because we didn't have enough masks. No! That's not the story.
What's interesting about this, Gerard, here's what's interesting about the story. It's interesting because just a week and a half ago, he said it could be man-made. Then the emails were released. So why did he say a week and a half ago it could be man-made? Then the emails were released.
Freedom of Information Act.
Did he say it could be man-made before the emails being released because he wanted to make sure he said that before it was released?
Pat, did you see what the very first email he sent was?
Which one?
This was in January 31st.
Okay.
This man doesn't just need jail. He needs to be expatriated. We need to slingshot this dude over to Beijing. They can have this much. The first thing that he did was he found out that this virus, 1% of it is going to show that it was man-made. And the first thing he did is call his assistant and call his major donor and make sure that we are not doing gain-of-function research in Wuhan anymore, right? That was the first thing that he did. And then he goes for months and months and months acting like he doesn't know what this virus is and where it came from when it was the NIH, his place that paid for the research at the lab for this gain of function. The very first question he asked was, is it gain of function? Then he goes before the Senate, and Rand Paul specifically asked him. Rand Paul, who's a doctor, mind you. He's a doctor, not a lawyer, a doctor. He asked him, he's like, are you doing gain of function? No, I'm not doing gain of function. Is this guy who you're in contact to doing gain of function? And Fauci does that smirk, that if he does gain of function, he's doing it within the rule. Dude, he knew from the get. He knew from the jump exactly what this was and exactly what it meant, and he lied to us from the beginning. This man needs to be expatriated. This guy stole 2 years of our lives.
Tom.
2 years of our lives, he stole it.
And I thought I didn't like Fauci.
No.
You know what? Candace Owens says that he should go to prison. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement. You know, here's my thing. Anybody that is out there and it is intuitive, you saw what I saw. And here's the first thing I saw about Fauci. He's a weasel, okay? That's the first thing I thought. The flip-flopping, he's weak, he's affected, and it just comes across in all his press conferences. He's the highest paid employee. Like we've talked about, there needs to be a federal investigation into this. This is serious. I mean, if China got away with this and he's having emails with them saying, we're going to get through this together. I mean, he's literally saying this like they're our ally. He just doesn't get it. And I'm saying his age is a factor. He's 80 years old. He's 30 years past his prime. He needed to go a long time ago. But here, and you know, this is going to sound funny and like I'm making fun of it, but he literally has one function. He is the mascot of the coronavirus.
That's right.
They put him in front of it like a little dancing clown, and he's the little happy, cherubic little... This guy right here, that is Fauci. He is the mascot for the coronavirus. Cheerleader, wear your mask, don't wear your mask. You know, I even invented the Fauci dance.
2 masks now.
Should I show him the Fauci dance? Pat, you want to see this? This is the Fauci dance. That is the Fauci
I knew
dance
you had
right
dance
there.
moves, buddy. That's so impressive.
You know, he should be like the Phoenix Suns gorilla,
And
the Philly fanatic. He should go to Disneyland.
You talk about mascots and you talk about theater, Tom. Every jerk on Twitter, every single person in Brooklyn, New Jersey, that was every Karen that was screaming, "Trust the science! Trust the science! Trust the science!" There you go. This is it. Trust your science. You blindly, these people in this freaking obedience cult who blindly trust the science. This is what you get. This is the science that you blindly trusted, and you bullied everybody into trusting as well. This is nonsense, and he deserves to be held accountable. And jail is not too far.
My whole point is he's not cut out for this position. He should have been gone a long time ago.
Which, how did he survive Trump?
I don't know if
Trump
it's
fired
about
everybody
that.
but him.
Let me tell you how. Loyalty is created. Loyalty is created during tough times, and how you treat somebody during tough times, right? Meaning, when everything is good, it's like, everything is good. And then all of a sudden somebody's going through some stuff. You're like, hey, man, distance yourself from that individual, right? Okay. Where am I going with this? Just a year ago, who was the next Democratic presidential leading candidate in America? A year ago. Cuomo. He was the biggest celebrity. His book deal made him $5 million. He won an Emmy. Every day we heard Cuomo, right? What happened 3-4 months ago all of a sudden? All of a sudden, 3-4 months ago, stories started coming out where Schumer didn't like him. Not didn't like him. They wanted all the stories with Me Too movement. You had
all the women
Pelosi,
coming out, all the
AOC. Everybody all of a sudden distanced themselves from who?
Well, it turned out his policies ended up killing more people than saving.
Well, sure. But, I mean, you're right. But there's a big difference between a Cuomo and a Fauci. Here's where I'm going with this. Here's what could potentially happen with Fauci. Fauci, within the next 6 months, if any of these stories get the kind of credibility that they get and create momentum, watch how quickly everybody on the left is going to turn against this guy. Watch how quickly this guy's going to be on an island all by himself. Here's what you have to think. Go to Fauci in his bedroom. It's 11:30. He's sleeping at night.
Do you think he stays up that late?
100%. I think right now he is. Imagine it's 11 o'clock at night and he's sitting in his office, or he's done watching the news by himself. Wife, everybody's asleep. He's by himself, right? What's he thinking right now? Who's he talking to right now?
He's feeling a crumble.
Who is he feeling supports him right now? Who has his back right now? Is he sitting there saying the media has his back right now? Maybe. Is he sitting there saying, Biden, Pelosi, those guys have his back right now? I don't know. Is he sitting there saying China has his back? NIH has his back? CDC has his back? Who? Bill Gates? How many emails with Bill Gates? How many emails with Bill Gates? Zuckerberg. 24. What are you doing communicating with Zuckerberg? Bill Gates. Who has his back right now? Who is backing him up right now? Look, how many things were considered a conspiracy theory? Let's go through them. One, it was what? It was man-made. That was one of them, right? That was one of the things that...
That was a conspiracy theory, but a Chinese guy eating a pangolin wasn't. We were supposed to buy that.
So, but that's one. The other one was hydroxychloroquine was what? No, it doesn't work, right?
And then it works.
So a part of the email maybe gives a hint that maybe it does work, right? Hey, maybe it does have some kind of positive effects. Face masks don't work. They do work. Double masking, it doesn't work. It does work. Okay, we have to figure that out. Lockdown was necessary. Was it necessary? Did we really need to do a lockdown?
Close all the schools.
Yeah, schooling. All of this stuff that you sit there and you look at, those things have to be investigated.
Have to.
Simple as that. They have
We
to be
deserve
investigated.
answers.
But I will tell you, like this, he will be dropped. Like
100%.
this, it will be. Remember, Comey was a hero. He went up there and he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. And then the one time right before the election, Comey said what? There's very likely that Hillary Clinton's emails, and then he flipped.
Yep.
He flipped, and then that hurt Hillary's election chances. No, I don't know if you remember this or not.
It was right before the election.
Comey was their hero. Well, we have to listen to him because he is the FBI director. You know, we have to listen to what he has to say. Then the moment he flipped, all of a sudden, where's his credibility? Who is he? Well, this is not fair. He shouldn't be saying these kinds of things 2 weeks before the election. Fauci, Comey, similar camps, different areas of the camp, and like this, he'll be all by himself on an island.
My sister,
within probably a couple weeks.
I think
It
it's
could
going to
happen
go
fast.
quick.
Yeah.
And I think if you all of a sudden start seeing additional stories, stories that could go back to AIDS, stories that could go back 40 years, stories that could go back to women, stories that could go back the degree he got, stories that could go back, he was never really a valedictorian. Just nonsense stories like that could come out. You already kind of know what's going to happen right after that. Go ahead.
my family are Democrats. My sister in particular is a pretty staunch Democrat, right? And this was my message to her, because she's actually, speaking of, if anything good has come out of the last 2 years, they're a little more open to getting off that left hard line. They're a little more open to taking in some new information, okay? And as a libertarian, I've been ripping Republicans for years, and I marched against Bush and Cheney in college. I was anti-war. I still am anti-blood for oil. And then I told her, I was like, Bush and Cheney are stumping for Biden now. That should be pause for reflection for you, okay? And it was. In fairness to her, it was. One thing to take away from this, and it's a very good point you just made, Patrick, is that they're dumping these guys because they are liars. We are in the age of accountability, like I said before. Democrats, if you're listening to this, okay, you are America's gas pedal. Republicans are America's brake. We need both the gas pedal. We need both the brake. We need you just as much as we need DeSantis. But we need you to stop giving your side a break. You give these people a free pass all the time. There is never any accountability in your camp. Please, for the love of all that is holy, if you are listening to this, stop with the hero worship. Stop with the cult of personality. Dump these people. Dump them. If they're wrong, they're wrong. Bill Maher, to his credit, who I disagree with politically, he has already jumped off the Fauci bandwagon. It's been a month already. Guys, if they are wrong, they bankrupted your neighbor. They convinced you that everybody that you interacted with was a threat to your health. They convinced you to view your fellow man as a threat. They locked people in their homes, bankrupted them, killed them. How many people with addiction? How many people with anxiety, suicidal thoughts that they locked in a room to serve their political ambitions? Guys, you got to hold these people accountable. This can't be a tribal war.
I mean, here's what's going to happen. I think as we age, we reason better, and I bank on a small percentage of people to say, hey, what the hell is really going on? I'm getting a lot of people right now that are contacting me saying, look, I'm a Republican who questioned Trump. I'm a Democrat who questioned my side. There's a lot of weird things going on right now. I just much rather find out exactly what's going on. I just want the truth. Not everybody wants the truth, Gerard. You have to realize there's a lot of people that don't want the truth. There's a lot of people that would much rather just live a regular life. Don't tell me everything that's going on. Let me just go about my... There's a very small community of people that are actually going to adjust. Very small. The percentage is not as big as you think. It's a 5 to 10%. It's a small margin of people that are going to sit there and say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to go investigate a little bit more. Let's see what's going to be taking place. And I think the next 3-6 months, believe it or not, I think things are going to move very, very quickly. And we will learn a lot about what happened. Couple things here I do want to respond. A person here asked a question. I think I want to go a little bit into this. First of all, Ben Bost just gave $10 and he said, this morning has been a rough morning. My wife's godfather passed away in the middle of the night, but listening to this podcast always lifts us up. Thank you, PBD. Ben,
God bless you.
God bless you. Sorry for your loss. You'll get 10 times the $10. Send us a 10 text to 310-340-1132, 310-340-1132. We'll get that back over to you. Our condolences goes out to you and your family. Somebody asked a question and said, Pat, what happens if the market crash? Are cards and collectibles still going to be doing good? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the one question that we didn't go into too deep with was the following. It was, how do you hedge against a market crash? How do you hedge against an inflation? How do you hedge against something happen in the market? Because right now, a lot of people are wondering. He said, what happens if the market crashes? Do you think the value of cards are still going to go up?
It's a good question.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So let's process it. Okay. So if there is only one of this drink, there's only one of this, okay? One. There's only one in the world. Market crashes. Is it still only one of this in the world in a market crash?
Yes.
Is it, if the market goes up, is it still only one in the world of this drink here? If there's only one, is it still valuable during a market crash or market exploding? Yes or no, in a bubble?
It's valuable in both.
The only difference is the amount of money out there of people who are willing to overpay for this. But regardless, it's still extremely valuable because it's what? It's very rare, right? It's just, you have to understand that part. You don't have to worry because there's rarity in it. Okay, as a person in a marketplace, like today, let's just say we're doing a podcast. How many people are we competing with in the podcast world?
Millions.
How many?
I mean, there's a million podcasts.
No, I don't even know if it's, I think it's more than million. There's probably millions of podcasts.
Try to come
right?
up with a name for a podcast.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
the point I'm trying to say with a podcast, there's a lot of podcasts out there. Okay, so let's just say all of a sudden everybody goes into the podcast frenzy and they create a ton of podcasts, right? When the market is booming with podcasts, right? How many views are there in the world? Let's pick in U.S. 330 million. Yeah, if there's more podcasts today than ever before, are you going to lose a little bit of viewership on podcasts?
Sure.
Maybe. But if your content is unique, it's valuable, it's consistent, eventually what happens? A year, 2 years, 3
People
years,
find
5
you.
years.
Separate yourself.
Eventually people say, you know what? These guys are most legit. I'm going to go listen to this podcast. That you may not get the answer for a year or two. So what's the moral of the story here? Is a rookie card of a Michael Jordan PSA 10 going to be worth as much in a market crash as it is today? Value, yes. Dollar amount, no. Dollar amount is going to adjust, but the need and the demand, the people wanting it, it's still going to be high. So my entire focus right now, when I buy stuff, I buy one of ones. When I buy stuff, I look at how many things are out there. A Ferrari, LaFerrari right now, if you want to buy. Okay, if you want to buy LaFerrari right now, you're paying around $3.4 million. Why? Because it's numbered. You know, if you buy an Ayrton Senna, if you buy a Senna McLaren right now, you're going to spend $1.2 million. Why? Because it's numbered. If you buy a Ducati Lamborghini right now, it's expensive. Why? Because it just came out and it's what? It's numbered. Anything that's numbered. Gold is numbered. So, again, if people are listening to this, you truly have to take your finances extremely seriously today. Go sit down with an expert and ask, what the hell is going to happen if the market crashes? How do I hedge against that? And what the hell am I going to do if there's inflation? How do I hedge against that? Sitting on the sidelines, going the same way you've been going for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it is not a winning formula today. Times are changing, and we have to adjust at the same time as well.
Do you think NFTs could have that in the digital world? Is that
long-term? Yes. Short-term, no. I think NFTs are too volatile short-term. Long-term, yes. Because why yes? Because today's 14-year-olds are teaching the 45-year-olds. Today's 16-year-olds are saying, I want to go to a virtual museum. I don't want to go to a museum in France. I don't want to go to Italy. I want to go to a virtual museum. Yeah. Hey, you know what? In my mind, I can live in a massive 30,000 square foot castle. In real life, I can't live in a big castle, but I can buy a virtual castle and have a virtual girlfriend, have a virtual friendship, and I can have a virtual relationship. I can play virtual. In my virtual world,
you're right,
Gerard, I can be LeBron James.
You're right, and that saddens me in the same
You can also have a virtual statue. That'll cost you 20 grand.
The point is,
Callback.
So NFT is not going away.
Yeah.
As much as people don't understand it, we're going virtual, and it's just going to take place. When VR comes out, watch what's going to happen to dating scenes. When VR comes out, which woman in the world is going to be able to please you as good as somebody in a VR? Which man in real life is going to please you? Just think about the imagination part
This
with
is
VR.
like Demolition Man. We're turning into. Have you ever seen Demolition Man?
This is
Arnold,
Demolition
No,
Man.
that's
what's
Sylvester
his name?
Stallone.
No, not just Sylvester Stallone. There's another guy. Yeah, Demolition Man and
Wesley
Her.
Snipes.
Yeah.
You know,
Sandra
Her.
Bullock.
Those two movies combined together. So we're going in that direction.
Wow.
So it's your imagination is going to be it, but focus on banking on things that are one-offs. A book. Let's just say, for example, You have an old school book of, give me a famous book from the 40s. Give me a 30s,
From the,
old school book.
Fahrenheit
To
451.
Kill a Mockingbird, something.
Okay,
Shakespeare. Yeah.
1984, let's just say.
Yep.
Okay, so if you want an original first edition, first print, first sleeve, everything high quality, guess what? That book is going to be worth a lot of money. So if you own one of those, keep it. That's going to go up in the next 10, 20 years because there aren't many of those out there.
So it's like a high level arbitrage market? Is that
Let
like
me put it to you this way. This game of having one-offs or numbered items, go use your imagination right now. Go think about what's numbered. Anything that's numbered.
Art, yeah.
you're going to have
Art-
50,000 people going to thrift shops and antique stores all across America.
Limited
But it's
edition
numbered.
shoes.
I'm looking at numbered shoes, numbered anything, numbered watches, numbered anything that's numbered, anything that's limited, anything that cannot be duplicated, anything that can be reprinted. Fiat currency is not high quality. Now, if you own a $5,000 currency, which there's only a limited amount, I don't even think it's illegal for you to have a $10,000 currency. The $10,000 currency, if you have it, it's illegal, by the way. The government confiscated all of them.
Is that right?
Yeah, it is. I think it's the $10,000 or the $5,000. But if you own a $5,000 currency, it ain't $5,000. That's a 20, 30, 40,000.
Yeah. That's like the 1915 a
That's
penny.
numbered. So that's numbered. Like, you know how they do these, hey, uncirculated nickels, okay, of 1988, and you're going to get $500 of them. Okay, yes, there's some value to that that's going to go up. So anything that's numbered, pay very, very close attention to it. And this is not just baseball cards. This is art. This is real estate. This is a lot of different things you're looking at.
So one of the ways to hedge against inflation and a market crash, you're very bullish on the collectibles market.
I'm bullish on anything that cannot be duplicated. Think about, like, you know, you build a structure and you build a nice house, and let's just say it was built in 03, and in 03 people like the Spanish style house, and it's, you know, the yellow color and then, you know, the
Tuscan
tan
and all
color,
that stuff,
like
yeah.
that style, right?
Yeah.
What is the value of that? Nothing. It's
No,
done.
you gotta pay to get
It's
it redone.
Done.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to come in, they're going to rebuild again. But what didn't lose the value?
The land, yeah.
So land cannot be duplicated. Structure can be duplicated. So there's certain things that you have to know is not going away. Anything that cannot be duplicated, that's going to increase in value over the next 5, 10, and not just over the next 5, 10, 15 years. Forever, it's always going to gain value. You know the Gretzky card that sold for $3.5 million? You want me to give you a prediction? That card's going to sell for $50 million.
Wow.
5-0?
Oh, yeah, but it could sell for $50 million 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30. But it's going to. Why? There's only 2 of them at PSA 10. That's what I mean by that. So anything you're doing, pay attention to that. You have to hedge today. People have to hedge today. There's a lot of craziness going on. People are worried about market crash. I'm worried about hyperinflation. And that inflation is coming. That's the one part that you can, like, you know how people keep saying, I have a lot of videos on market crash. 8 signs to prepare for market crash. 10 signs market crash is coming. All these other things that we talk about market crash. A form of a market crash is massive, massive inflation, hyperinflation. But that doesn't mean Dow's going to drop.
It's quiet.
People have to understand there's a big difference.
Do you
with
think
that.
the Republicans are relying on that and knowing that this could correct itself, you know, with the House in a couple of years, that if inflation does hit in a big way, that it's automatically going to happen?
Well, you
I mean,
guys
do you
are-
think that could be part of their strategy? Are they smart enough to forward think and see that it's coming?
You guys are a little older than me. You lived, like, I was born 86. So you guys, you lived through Carter in transitioning into Reagan, right?
No, I don't remember it.
You don't remember
Well, I
it,
was
though.
alive. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm just wondering because, I mean, like you said, we're kind of mirroring
16%
that.
inflation. 16%. You got CDs that was giving you 16% in 1979, 1980, 1981. I mean, that's insane to be thinking about that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you got a loan, you were paying 18% loan. You got $1 million loan, you're paying 18% interest
On a home.
on a home loan.
That's insane.
So when that, so people have to understand when that comes. This is all you have to think about. The simple ways to break down the math. Say Dow hits 40,000. So the market's going to be able. The politicians are going to be able to say what? Under my administration, the Dow went up 30%. You know, it's like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's marketable. But what people are not going to realize is, under the last 7 years, my monthly expenses went from $2,400 to $4,200.
Yeah.
That's life changing.
Your dollar's worth 1/6 of what
That's
it was 2
scary.
years ago.
That's scary, and that's coming. There's nothing you can do about that. That's inevitable. That is coming. You can say whatever you want to say. That part 100% is coming. 100% that part.
But we
is
adjust
coming.
to it too.
Yeah.
I mean, 100 years ago, a slice of pizza was 10 cents.
Yes,
So I mean,
but-
we do adjust.
But
right?
people who are not prepared, like anything else in life, if you're not prepared for it, you're going to take a massive
Are
hit.
wages going to be able to keep up with inflation? Do you think?
Are wages going to be able to keep up with inflation?
Yes.
Yes and no, because it's still going to go down to being specialized. If you don't have a specialized skill, you're still going to take a massive hit. If you don't have a specialized skill,
Or you're on a contract like teachers.
if you don't have a specialized skill and there's a ton of you doing what you're doing, yes. Now, what jobs are taking off right now? Look at the number one job right now that kids are going to college. Parents, if you're having a conversation with your kids and your kids want to know what to do, you know how parents typically say, what? Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be
Software engineer?
Software engineer. Cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah. They couldn't hire you fast enough if you were there.
Cybersecurity today is
And name your own price.
They're
Really?
all, you graduate from school with a cybersecurity degree, they're overpaying for it right now. Like, hey, what do you want? I want $120,000. Here you go.
You'd have
'Cause we're-
50 offers
there's-
the first
it's-
day.
It's insane right now for cybersecurity. It's insane right now for predictive analytics. It's insane right now for, engineer. It's certain things you're going through right now. So if you have a specialized skill, you're going to be fine. But if you don't, the next 5-10 years, hurry up and go increase your value in the marketplace.
That's a hedge as well. That's a
Hurry
hedge right now.
up and increase your market value today. Hurry up, increase your market value. Inflation is coming. Guaranteed it's coming. Anyways, okay, gang, really enjoyed doing this podcast here with you guys. If you enjoyed it, smash that subscribe button and smash a thumbs up. And we will not be doing podcasts next week, but we will be coming back next Tuesday. So whatever the following Tuesday is, I don't know the exact
15th,
date. We'll
I
be
think?
back. I think it's
15th.
it's the 15th. We'll be back Tuesday, same time on the podcast. Having said that, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Enjoy all the madness in the media the next week or so, because we're not going to be with you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.